What's the best way to pee off rude customers within company guidelines? I used to bartend in Austin on 6th Street, so I had to deal with a ton of entitled frat boys. One guy ordered a beer, chugged it in front of me, and set it on my spill mat. For the uninitiated, this is the universal sign that someone has finished their beverage. I pick up the bottle and it had less than an ounce of backwash left in it, and throw it away. The frat boy then gets angry, saying he wasn't finished, and demands another beer for free. I told him I would be happy to replace his drink. I open a new beer, pour almost all of it down the sink, leaving less than an ounce at the bottom, hand him his new, basically empty beer, and smiled. Luckily my manager had dealt with similar situations for years and saw the whole interaction, so he thought it was hilarious. That's a good one. Lucky you never got in trouble for wasting beer though. If it's an angry phone call, just listening to them vent without any verbal acknowledgement is pretty powerful. No yep, no no I see etc. Just silent listening. After a bit of ranting, they'll say are you even there or something like that, to which you answer yes, just listening. I always merrily and obnoxiously tell them to have a nice day when they leave screaming. It always makes them fume. But what are they going to do? Complain to my boss that I told them to have a nice day? I'm sure that will go over well. I told this angry woman I was sorry for her inconvenience and she told me she didn't think I was. To be fair, it's hard to feel sorry for her when she was throwing a tantrum over $1 worth of coupons. My store always has a $10 off your $40 purchase coupon if you text a certain number. If a customer is being rude and complains about our prices and then they ask me if we have any coupons, I'll usually just tell them they have to have a rewards account to receive coupons. On the other hand, I'll notice when customers are polite and search through their rewards email for coupons but can't find any. I'll tell them to text that number for the $10 off. For me, it was calling the manager over the walkie, at the customer's insistence, and saying something like I need a manager to lay away. The customer wants XXXX but I've already told her our policy is yii. They want to jump on the manager when he walks up before you can speak. So when you announce that you have already explained to them the policy, usually it was them misunderstanding what no money down meant, but the entire policy is both printed on the receipt they have to sign and on the wall behind you. Then the manager is usually going to have your back when they get there. I can't tell you how many of those I'll get my way because I can yell louder than you. Customers went red in the face as they watched me talking into the walkie. Also, it helps to know which manager to call. One of them would cave every time, but the main boss would always back me up because he knew I was polite and good at my job. And working retail, you're already bending over backwards to please the customers, even when they're jerks. So those occasions where it feels like justice is served are the best. I've never said that stuff in front of the customer. I pretend the manager isn't picking up his phone, then go personally find him and tell him what's happening. I learned I had to do that after the first time I called him to the front and he didn't back me. The front end manager. God, I miss our old manager. I had a customer say to me, "You're a lousy worker, piece of crap." And I responded with, "I am sorry you feel that way. If you'd like to fill out our survey and let us know how your experience went, we are more than happy to hear your feedback." She got pee, and all I did was just knock that entire part of my speech out. Simply say, "I'm sorry mom. We can't do anything without a receipt." When that soccer mom starts building up, just continue to smile, stare into their eyes, wait until they finish crying. Soak up the awkward silence and wait until they say, well then you say, "I'm sorry mom. We can't do anything without a receipt." Works every time. I just come across as really vacant and out of it. Say stuff like MMMHHMMM or MMMM, right as a response to everything they say, or ask me while nodding like an idiot the whole time. It drives them crazy and they usually get frustrated and leave. Or if they're extra rude, I just pretend to call security. Our security department is useless and has no power, but the customers don't know that. Your employee humored my request. I want him fired. Can't believe nobody has said this yet, but constantly repeating "I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What did you say?" works every time. But like our prices have never been lower. Like I said, when they start melting down and repeating the same thing, One lady nearly ran me over in her electric cart when I spat that one out at her when she kept insisting that I point her to a functioning wall-mounted scanner. There were none. I had one lady today that just started screaming, "There's 3. Your website said you have 3," while waving around several pages with pictures and info for various items she was looking for. Like I said, and similar phrases are actually forbidden in my workplace. When I worked at Panera, they had these cookie coupons to get a free cookie. Now on the coupon it says it's for kids. Stores give them out for good grades, I think. But normally nobody cares and I'll give whoever a free cookie. Unless you're in but. I'm so sorry, those coupons are for kids in school. I'm not allowed to accept that from you. Sorry, store policy. At the Panera I used to work at, I could have actually gotten in trouble for this. The manager there always says to give customers what they want and or give them something free like a cookie if their order was messed up so that they'd leave happy. He's a really generous guy. I didn't end up dealing with many angry customers there. Worked in a copy print center. Your documents had to be ready to be copied the moment you walked in the door. Staples, paper clips removed, those sorts of things. If you didn't have your crap print ready, it was a $1.20 per minute charge to get it ready. We hardly ever charged anyone this fee unless they were rude or a problem customer. If we did charge it, we called it the butthole tax. Or a shoulder tax. I work retail. A group of women were at me. They were saying, "Let's leave these items here so I will have to pick them up." They sarcastically talked to themselves about putting items in their purses because they thought I was watching out for theft. I went to a manager and explained what these upstanding citizens were doing. My manager said he would talk to them. I walked nearby during their conversation because I actually had to walk that way. I knew exactly what they were talking about, and I kept a huge smile on my face. They were absolutely furious at my smile and kept saying, "That is so unprofessional. That is so unprofessional." Yay. Ladies, you clearly set an example of professionalism by making a mess in a retail store and talking about stealing items, but I'm the unprofessional one for smiling. I was recently called unprofessional because, as a nurse, I told the patient that I believed the report I got from night shift over what they were telling me. I had noticed manipulative behavior on her part over the couple of days I had her, as well as some flat out lies she told. Nothing makes a person angrier than being told that you believe someone over them. My old boss used to give us permission to just smile at them and calmly say, "Wow, that was rude," and then just continue with the transaction. I worked at a private clubhouse for 3 years in a 55+ community. They loved having huge parties in the ballroom of the clubhouse. Evening there was a wine tasting event. Their contracts for the event stated they were to be out of the room by 9:30 p.m, giving the staff enough time to clean. At 9:30 only one table of people were left, mostly HOA board members, drinking and taking. The rest of the room had been cleaned and it was time for them to leave. I started turning off the lights on them. They started complaints about how they pay for the amenities and should stay as long as they wish. I replied back by saying event contract states end time is 9:30 p.m, nothing more, and just started cleaning. Nothing gave me more satisfaction than 7p off old drunk people mad about a contract they couldn't fight. You can take it up with the HOA board if you want the contract changed, lol. Ex-Best Buy employee. I used to love it when they'd say, "Oh, I'll just take my business elsewhere." I'd reply, "Okay ma'am, sir, there's a Target across the street." Don't react and just smile. Works 99% of the time and the customer will stop screaming and will be fuming inside, unless they are drunk or on drugs. I once told a dong of a customer, "I'm sorry I hurt your feelings," and for some reason that pissed her off even more. Don't give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Just stand there and stare at them while they scream in your face about what a waste of space you are. It just absolutely pisses them off. When a customer gets grumpy or rude with me, I just say at a level high enough so people around us can hear, "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to stop raising your voice at me." Usually gets people to take a quick look around to see if anyone's heard, and they usually shut up and stop acting like an shat. Bonus points if they start being super dramatic. I know it's a bit off topic, but there's a regular where I work who everyone hates serving because she's a bit oblivious. Doesn't tip and can be quite rude sometimes, but I was kind to her every time she ordered from me, and I noticed over time she would be happier anytime she saw me at work. She gave me a $10 tip a couple months ago, and last week she asked me what days I work and said she wanted to come in on those days. But yeah, with rude one-off customers I'm polite to them, but then I burn their milk or I avoid the table they're at because they obviously treat all hospo staff like trash. I used to give them obnoxiously pestering, helpful and persistent service. Need any help with that? Oh, let me get that for you. When they clearly could have managed it by themselves. Let me list off every single option for you. Have an absolutely splendiferous day. What are they going to do? Call in and complain that they got the best freaking customer service they've ever had? I channeled my best annoyingly happy Ned Flanders. Slow responses. Overly kind and understanding responses. Repeat and rephrase what they are saying to you. Compliment their extensive profanity vocabulary. You're legally allowed to turn down any alcohol sales. That led to some great confrontations. Sure, you piece of crap, I'll come stop what I'm doing to tell you why the date on the box doesn't match the date on the bottle. They probably don't make cardboard in the same place they make beer. We have checkups twice a week. The beer is fresh. Shut up or get out. But I will definitely help you out all 15 minutes until you get to the counter, and I can tell you that I can't sell that 6-pack to you because I smell alcohol on your breath and I saw you stumble back there. Completely legal, petty as heck, and fun as heck. And to be clear, I realize discerning beer enthusiasts do want fresh craft beers, not crap that's been sitting there for 6 months. Not who I'm talking about. Clear difference with the buttholes. I sell health insurance in a call center. One time, a guy got super angry at my coworker and told him he was gonna come to our city and fight him. My coworker simply responds, okay, if you want to go that route, let me offer you some life insurance as well because you're gonna need it. We will complete your task within the allowed time. We always finish way early, but if they just create a task and jump down my throat the second they cut a ticket, they get the quotes on repeat. The allowed time is anywhere from 2 to 15 days. Rule NR1: stay super calm. Agitated people hate that. Also stay super polite. High road city. But most importantly, know your crap. Know the policies and rules by heart so you are 100% confident and in the right when rude buttholes try to get you. And if your manager is competent enough, memorize what they say and do in those situations. So when the customer demands to speak to the manager, he will give them the exact same answer that you've already politely given them. That should well pee them off. Working in the fast food industry, I had a customer ball up their $10 bill and throw it at me to pay, so I smiled, put the cash in the tray, and when I made the $1.98 of change, I grabbed 98 pennies and I accidentally dropped all of his change on the floor while I smiled and said, "I'm terribly sorry, sir." As he picked up all of it, he called my manager up and she looked at me and said all well, then walked away. Call the manager. He is 6 feet 4 inches and never smiles. I call them because he is more qualified to help the problem, but really he is more qualified in making them crap their pants. Oh man, this is my bread and butter. I've been at my job over 5 years and I have what I call jalapeno but his place of work. Justice. Customers set something on the far edge of the counter when ringing up, so I have to heave over and grab it. I do the same thing to them. They make hot dogs or chili or something and create a huge mess doing so. When they come to ring out, I'll say, "Hold on a second, go clean it up," so they have to wait. Give me crap about getting carded. Guess who's getting carded every day for the next month? My personal favorite. On the phone while ringing out, "I'm gonna ask you 5,000 questions. Of course I don't do any of this if there's a line and would inconvenience other people. This stuff is all extremely petty, but that's the point. I'm still doing my job, and arguably doing it slightly better. But I'm making your day take a little longer when all you had to do was be considerate and polite to me. Also, sorry for how the formatting of this comment might have turned out. I'm on mobile. I work at a deli. This couple ordered a few pasta salads and on the first one I put in a little extra and they yelled at me, "No, stop idiot, that's too much. We only want a pound." Then I heard them talking about how I'm moving in slow motion. So on the next two I put a tiny scoop in at a time and asked, "Is this enough?" after every single scoop. I probably asked like 40 times, and they were visibly pee off. Made my day. Is this enough? More. 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 Never, ever stop smiling, and make it as real as possible. These people are mean because they like seeing their pseudo-slaves uncomfortable, and being completely unfazed throws them off their power trip. After a while your smile will become robotic, and yet genuine somehow. No one knows how the frick to deal with it. If they're trying to be mean they get psychopath vibes from you, and if they're nice they just see a wonderful person. I have a really great deadpan monotone voice I reserve strictly for those who start yelling at me. It goes really great with the smile. Really creeps them out. Look them dead in the eyes while they go on their tirade. When they are done, respond at the end as genuinely as you can. Interesting. And then proceed to do your job exactly as you would have anyway. We have noticed that you have made several trips to our store today. While we thank you for shopping with us, I have been asked to assist you in finding everything you need so that you need not return to us once more today. Read. We noticed you have been here several times stealing stuff, so I am going to follow you around to make sure you don't take anything, and when you're done, don't come back. Unfortunately there's nothing else I can do for that. Is there anything else I can help you with today? Same thing. Unfortunately because, reason. Usually customers fault for one reason or another. I can't do anymore. Is there anything else I can help you with today? On repeat. Bonus points on calls where the reason was the customer trying to get me to lie for them. On a recorded call. About something they would definitely be caught on. Not customers per se, but when telemarketers call my office I ask them to please hold and then I put the phone up to my PC speakers and play Cotton Eye Joe. If someone is yelling at you, wait until they're finished and ask them to repeat it again while apologizing profusely about being attention deficit. Keep saying so mom at the start and or end of every sentence, smile and look them in the eye and don't break eye contact and be as uncomfortably attentive as possible. Add fake guidelines like no ice cream between 2:39 3:51 and cabbage can only be served to people who are 58,920 days old and 3 minutes. Passive aggressiveness. I work at a rental car company that has a customer tier system which pre-assigns customers that provide us with their information beforehand and rent with the company on a regular basis. This is a free service but these customers act like they sit at the right hand of God himself, so if they can't immediately find what slot their car is in, they'll come in angry with a phrase along the lines of, I don't know why you guys can't seem to do your job, but my car hasn't been pre-assigned yet. So I need you to hurry up and fix that for me. I'll pull up their rental agreement which almost always has been pre-assigned, tell them their spot number, and say it also sent you the email confirming your spot number, and your spot number is on our electronic board. If you have text notifications, it also texted that to you as well. Have a nice day. I get so much satisfaction by just making customers feel absolutely stupid when they act like buttholes. If you turn to page 734,654 and read clause 1,345,894 of the terms and conditions that you agreed to when making that transaction, you will see that it clearly states, oh you didn't read the terms and conditions, but I can see that you ticked the box indicating that you had before you did this. People really hate T&Cs. Telling anyone who's up in a fuss to please calm down immediately boils their blood no matter what the context, but it should only be used in scenarios that can be considered absurd. Bonus. With absolutely no personal emotional investment. Montoni, sir. Corporate policy at this point is to request that you calm down. Back when I worked in a call center, I used to love it when people rang in kicking off about something, but would refuse, couldn't, to go through the security questions. You can just note them, even if they ask to speak to a manager. Strictly adhere to company policy. No exceptions. I'm a nurse, and a pretty laid back one. I don't usually bother people with dumb rules if it's not going to compromise your safety. Like, if you're a smoker, I usually won't say anything if you go out for a smoke even though we're a smoke-free campus. No smoking allowed anywhere on company property. You have to physically leave the campus to smoke. But if you pee me off, I will follow company policy to the letter, including paging you overhead to return to your room, and notifying security every time you leave the floor, including having security confiscate your cigarettes and lighter. Continue to pee me off? Oh, I'm very sorry. Company policy says you can't have narcotics and leave the medical floor, so now you have to choose between your Percocets or your cigarettes. I'm happy to get you a nicotine patch, though. Wait until they are done their rant and say I'm sorry. Some of the details of what you described escaped me. Could you start again at the beginning? That was always good for a freak out. Or waiting until someone lost their crap and then confirming alrighty. All done. If no, let them go off again. If yes, great. I stopped paying attention and was no longer willing or obligated to do anything for you the moment you yelled, screamed, swore, threatened, smashed item on the counter, threatened staff. Get out now. And I loved when they refused to leave, stating bulls like this is a public place. Actually, no it isn't. This entire shopping complex is a private establishment for which a permanent, non-binding invitation is invoked. This invitation to this particular store and to the entire premises can be revoked by any store like me, right now, with cause should I choose to do so, which I am about to do, holding phone. Would you prefer to leave or be barred from the mall and charged with criminal trespass? Your call. You have 10 seconds starting now. No one ever made it to 10. God, I miss that part of the job. I'm incredibly, excessively polite and attentive. I make them complicit in it and get them to agree verbally, out loud, in front of people. How do you know some people behave like you have just done totally for effect and don't care if they get staff into trouble wrongly? How awful. Isn't it awful? I mean, you're totally genuine, but some people are just garbage human beings and don't care just to make a fuss or get camped. Now I'm going to attend to you personally and you'll get exactly what you ordered, and you're so lovely. You're not one of those trashy people. Do I know you'll appreciate it? People who lost their jobs by going off on a customer. What is your story? Disneyland. I worked in the ticket booths. If you're an annual pass holder and you're on a monthly contract, Disney takes automatic payments from your credit card. If your card expires or otherwise has to be changed, and you don't call to put a new card on file, the auto payments stop and your pass freezes. No big deal. Disney doesn't hit you with fees or penalties. You simply call or come to the booth, and we handle it right then and there. Zippity doodah, and in you go. One day, I get a middle-aged couple whose passes froze. The man was upset and ready to talk about it. A common question from guests is, don't you send out late notices? No, Disney doesn't, because they're not practical. And again, there are no penalties anyway. Just come see us and we'll straighten you out. The man says to me in a disgusted tone, you don't send notices when a pass freezes? How does that work? I said, well, you receive your credit card statement, you see that a recurring charge is not present on it, and you can expect the service related to the recurring charge to be interrupted, and that it must be related to your card having been replaced recently. The wife smiled, the man's face reddened, and he leaned in and barked, get your supervisor. I want to talk to somebody smart. To my shame, I said, of course. Would you like someone smart enough to stay aware of their credit card use, or merely smart enough to read contracts they sign? My booth lead happened to come over as soon as she heard supervisor, so she was standing behind me when I said the emotional thing. It isn't how I wanted to go out. I was 5 days away from leaving for a new job, but I looked at it as a vicariously cathartic mic drop goodbye to my fellow cast members. For them, it was a thrill. Back around 1969, I saw a service advisor at a VW dealership get fired for telling an irate customer, if you can't take a joke, you shouldn't have bought a Volkswagen. I was lucky I didn't lose my job for this one. I worked at a furniture store as a sales associate. One day a husband and wife come in wanting to furnish their son's apartment that's going to college. They find all of the furniture pieces they want and I go to check stock on multiple items. Everything is in except the tabletop on the dining room set they wanted. I go back and tell the couple. The husband throws an absolute hissy fit saying that he can't believe that we don't keep our product stocked. Keep in mind that we are a huge furniture store. I calmly explained to him that we can't possibly keep all of our product in stock at all times, and since the dining room table he wanted was a very popular set, due to the fact it was $199.99, it tended to go out of stock rather quickly. So, we would have to wait for that vendor to send us the tabletop, which was about 2 weeks. I even tried to show them another tabletop that was in stock that was very similar to the one they picked out, and he would not have it. He started telling me that I was incompetent and how dare I insult him. Insult him how? I have no idea. He starts increasing his volume and now he is full out screaming at me about 10 inches away from my face. My manager walks from around the corner and looks at me questioningly, like the "do you got this" face. I nodded at him that I had it, but he continued to stand within earshot. I then looked back to the customer and said in a nonchalant tone, "I'm not going to help you. In fact, no one here is going to help you. Now please get out of my store." The customer looks at me bewildered and in full set rage and demands to speak with my manager. Since my manager is standing right around the corner, he had heard everything. He goes over to the customer and says, "Well, you heard the lady. I miss working there." Oh man, I've been dying to tell this story for a while now. Although it doesn't pertain to someone getting fired, it does have some justice. A friend and I go to a store. Let's make it up and call it Walmart. We're in line at the registers when this middle-aged lady in front of us is trying to use some expired coupons. The cashier is telling her the coupons can't be used. Mind you, these coupons would save her $4. A fact that I realized after this entire ordeal. Lady wasn't having it and just starts insulting and yelling the cashier as if it's their fault the coupons expired. And not smuggish insults like "no wonder you work here," but some deep cutting stuff like "you should kill yourself if you can't override and accept them." Like WTF. This bee was out for blood for $4 fricking dollars. That's when my friend, who's a former Marine, steps in and reams back into her. The exchange went something like, him, "Whoa, how dare you disrespect this young cashier like that? The heck is wrong with you to say things like that to her? You're a messed up person." B. "Mind your business and don't raise your voice at me." Him. "Oh, so now you know that raising your voice is disrespectful. Where was that consideration when you did it to her?" Her. "Stop talking to me or I'll get my husband here to handle you." Him. "What husband? You don't even have a wedding ring on. That's probably the problem there. You're so bitter and lonely you take it out on other people. You're messed up." They exchange more comments and it ended with her storming out of the store without her items and on the verge of tears. I guess we attracted too much attention because we were asked to leave by the manager but not before the cashier quietly thanked us. Reading through these comments, I realize that not very many Redditors have not worked in a fast food restaurant in any ghetto areas. Arguments were an everyday thing where I worked, as the manager at KFC. I know, I'm a big shot. I encouraged my employees to stick up for themselves. More than once a day, I'd have people coming in attempting to rip us off, or get more food than what they paid for, then insulting and even attacking me at times. The only reason I quit is because I had cooks and cashiers who were making more than me. But yeah, the job was pretty much a free-for-all when it came to shitty customers. I used to cut hair. I was cutting a lady's hair when the child of lady waiting started running around the shop. I told the child several times to go sit with her mother and asked her mother to please keep her child seated next to her. Well, in the middle of cutting around my client's ear, the child ran into my work area, ran into me and almost caused me to cut my client. I looked at the child and firmly said, "You need to go sit down with your mother now." Well, her mom didn't like that and came running back to me and yelled, "Don't tell my child what to do. I'm her parent." I responded with "Then act like it." She glared at me, grabbed her child and stormed out. Everyone in the shop was relieved the child had left. A few days later the owner came and tried to fire me for it. But luckily there were enough other stylists and clients that came to my defense about the danger of the situation and I only got a write-up. Many a year ago I worked at a home improvement store called Menards. I was a cart pusher, which was nice as I was outside all the time. Anyway, we gather about 25-30 shopping carts together and push them up to the entrance where they are stored inside. Now to get them there we do have to cross the main drive of the parking lot in front of the store. We always stop and let customers drive by. So as I push the carts up I stop because I see a guy in a pretty nice SUV. He is actually stopped in front of the entrance. Maybe he dropped someone off, I do not know. So I'm waiting to see if he drives off and he then looks at me and waves me across. Looks like he wanted to finish a call he had gotten or something. So I wave back and start pushing the carts across. I am on the other side when some clips me across the shoulder blades and it stung somewhat and pushed me forward, and at the same time I heard glass shatter. I turn around and the guy in the SUV clipped me with his side view mirror. It had swung closed and shattered the window and the door, and I'm just standing there wide-eyed. 2 seconds later the guy gets out of his car swearing up a storm at me and how I'm a low-life piece of crap and how I'm going to pay for a new window and that I'm not going to get anywhere in life because I broke his window. Now I'm the type of person that if I was the reason I'll take the blame and fix the problem. But this guy hit me. I blew up on him for about 5 minutes before a manager finally had the guts to come over and pull me away. I didn't have to pay for a new window as it was on video, but I lost my job because we are not supposed to yell and cuss at the customer. That's bulls. The minute someone hits you with their car they are no longer the customer, they are that butthole who hit me with their car. I used to work in the restaurant industry as a chef. We had a closed kitchen at this particular spot, so customers couldn't see what was being done in the kitchen. It was nice because we could listen to music and joke around without having to worry. Anyways, one day I was alone on the line and a server came to me and said a customer wanted to give me his compliments. No problem. I put on my nicer jacket and went out to say hi. The customer thanks me, then tells me to come in closely because he had a secret. I was like okay sure, so I lean in a little. He motions me closer. I move in a little more. This guy then goes I'll meet you in the bathroom in 5 minutes and grabs my balls. I freaking lost it and shoved the dude. Got fired immediately. I used to work at pizza place in a small town when I was a teenager. One night I took a phone order from some idiot woman. It went like this. Me. Thank you for calling pizza place. May I take your order? IW. Yes. I'd like a large pizza. Half pepperoni, half sausage, and half black olives. Me. Okay. Did you want the toppings combined or separated? IW. No. I want half pepperoni, half sausage, and half black olives. Me. Okay, so you want 1/3 pepperoni, 1/3 sausage, and 1/3 black olives? IW. No. I want half pepperoni, half sausage, and half black olives. Me. I understand the toppings that you want, but I'm not understanding how you want us to put the toppings on your pizza. Do you want them separated by thirds, combined together, or do you mean put half the amount that we usually put on? IW. What's so hard to understand? I want half pepperoni, half sausage, and half black olives. Me. Lady, there's only 2 halves to a pizza. IW. I want to speak to your manager. I got fired on the spot. It was easier for the manager to just hire another person than it was to lose a customer in a small town. Oh, and the lady wanted the toppings divided into thirds. She told the manager the same thing and he just went with her math. The B also got it for free. That seems like a really stupid thing to be fired for over a misunderstanding. It's not like you called her a stupid bee. Was a stockroom assistant at a well-known fashion chain in the UK and US. Didn't go off on a customer, but I bloody well wish I did now. Happened to be behind tills changing hangers boxes when a customer explodes at the trainee cashier demanding to know where her order was. She's screaming her head off at how it's unacceptable I paid extra and how she made a specific detail to collect her package. She had ordered a jacket in another branch and had paid for next day delivery to the store I worked in. Customers aren't supposed to come collect their orders until they get an email saying their order is ready to collect. The poor cashier started last week and is basically cowering for dear life. I take over and ask to see her email, which she explains she doesn't need because she paid extra, so her package must be here. After 10 minutes of me trying to explain why her package isn't ready to collect and her trying to challenge Krakatoa, she storms off shouting that she'll be having words with the guy who owns our company. I hand back to the cashier and carry on with my day. The next day I'm prepping our delivery and I get called for a meeting with the store manager. I'm told I'm being let go for gross misconduct, specifically being unhelpful and challenging to customers. Turns out the customer was a journalist for the Daily Mail and she called our head of company, who she did indeed know personally, and got me fired specifically. Journalist and Daily Mail. Hilarious stuff. Worked at GameStop as a game advisor. Some guy came in and had a figurative arseload of games, over 100, to trade, all with games and cases mismatched. It took about 45 minutes to process his ticket when I told him the total it was low, because GameStop and also they were all old. Scratched games. This man then proceeded to try and negotiate with me, to which I kept telling him I can't change the price, which only made him angrier and louder. Eventually he yelled, "Listen you stupid N. I need at least $300 for all of this crap and you're going to give it to me. First of all, I don't even have the ability to change the price at all. Second of all, my co-worker proceeded to put all of his games in a bag, walk outside and toss them into the parking lot, and told the guy to take his racist cousin fricking ass somewhere else and to frick off. Store manager came out of the back room and fired him dead on the spot. The guy stormed out, and the second he left, my manager said, "Jesus, what was his freaking problem? Alright, get back to work." My co-worker didn't get fired, it was just theatrics for the racist C. I felt like an idiot for just standing there, but it was taking everything I had to not hop the counter and hit the guy. Love the theatrics trick. A good manager knows how to use it. People who work in customer service, what is the one thing you never thought you'd have to explain to an adult? Years ago I worked in student housing at a university and had to explain to her father, for well over an hour, that I could not make sure that his daughter was in her room by 8 PM and ensure that she never spoke to boys. A dialogue I actually had to have with a grown but adult, him, pointing at the price tag on a shirt. "Excuse me, what do these numbers represent?" Me, "The numbers right after the dollar sign." Him, "Yes." Me, "That's the price of the shirt." Him, "Oh, I see. Thank you." At least he was friendly. Alien. That if you order ice cream for 4 people on a hot summer day, but the 4 people are still like 30 minutes away, said ice cream is going to melt before the 4 people get there. And no, that is not my fault. You are not more important than any other customer, which is why we sold whatever you're looking for to people who came in here before you. People really show how narcissistic they are. They are offended by the world not revolving around them. You genuinely get people who can't believe a store didn't refuse to sell items to other people, on the off chance that the main character comes in and wants one. Also, it's sold out because you waited until 2 days before a holiday and other people came in a week ago. You need to take the suppositories out of their foil packaging before you use them. He complained that they didn't work and were uncomfortable. I bet they were. I used to be a pharmacy tech. When translating the directions from the doctor to what is on the label, the pharmacist once told me to assume that the person is an idiot. That I needed to type in unwrap and insert into the correct orifice. Unwrap and insert anally or vaginally, even though the sig that the doc wrote is insert one. That we sell stuff for a higher price than we buy it in for. They were genuinely angry that we didn't buy their crap for the same price we sold it at. You only pay XXX amount wholesale, then we resell it for profit. That's what business does. Feel free to open your own store. Oh, so many things. 1. If you wish to return an item, you must present the item and your receipt. I cannot process a refund if you have neither. 2. No, we do not sell asbestos. No, I cannot order summon for you. 3. When water boils, it does indeed produce bubbles. If the water is bubbling once it reaches temperature, your kettle is in fact working properly. 4. Zip ties are not simply disposable handcuffs. They can be used for other purposes, and it should not be concerning nor surprising that a hardware store sells them. My first job at 16 was Party City. One day, I'm blowing up balloons at the balloon counter and a lady comes up to buy some latex balloons. I ask if she wants us to fill them and she said no, she'd do it at home. Making small talk, I said, "Oh, you must have one of the party time helium tasks at home." "No, I blow them up with my mouth. You just put the string on them and they float." I do the multiple blinks, trying to work out in my head what she's just said. She fully believed she could blow up the balloons with her mouth and the magic was attaching a string. I tried to give this woman an impromptu chemistry lesson. She insisted. I still think about that magic woman to this day. Here are a few favorites as a bartender. A drink is liquid. Bad idea to shake it around. Yes. The no smoking sign also applies to people who are addicted. Yes. The people on the tables around you are drunk. And no, I'm not going to kick them out. Seriously, what were they expecting when entering a bar at 2 AM? You still have to pay the entire meal, even though you only ate half of it. especially because they asked us to pack other half for them to take home. No, you're not allowed to test our liquor by taking a shot unless you buy a shot. The kitchen door as well as the backroom door are closed for a reason, and that reason is not to hide the good stuff at it. I was informed by my cook that he is, in fact, the good stuff. Exposure doesn't pay my freaking bills. Your kid is not going to get alcohol from me. Most of the time I can kinda understand the question, as legal drinking age when accompanied by your parents is only 14 for light beverages here in Austria, but that kid looked like it still went to primary school. And I don't care that it's his birthday. No, we're not running an illegal smuggling business in the back. You just watched too many movies. Also, did you really believe that I'd tell you if it were the case? No, you can't pay and insert weird cryptocurrency here. I've had that twice. After explaining to them that we don't take CC. I don't know your regular. You've been here twice. And one of those times I wasn't even working. Take my award for your cook. That gave me a good laugh. That owning a Fitbit does not make you skinny, and today I had to explain to a couple that just because the Amazon Echo box doesn't state that it uses Wi-Fi, it will still use it as it needs it to be a smart home device. I'm betting you the box does say that it requires an active internet connection, but they're too stupid to read it. I understand you want to protect your personal information, but I cannot send you what you want unless you give me your address. I worked at the airport and someone wanted to go through Tsar with a 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola. I calmly explained that liquids weren't allowed through security. The man gave the most genuine chuckle I've ever heard and said, "Oh, this isn't Coca-Cola, it's gasoline." My co-worker beat me to a reaction cause he very loudly exclaimed, "What the frick?" Maybe he just felt like a strip search that day. A very high society woman came to the store saying her brand new $3,000 Microsoft Surface bought by her husband was defective because she could not get internet when she was on the move. I wondered if she had a version with a 3G/4G SIM card, but quickly realized she was talking about Wi-Fi. I tried explaining to her how Wi-Fi works and that she could not use her own Wi-Fi outside her house but could share her smartphone internet connection. She would have none of it. She said I was lying to her and making fun of her and asked to speak to my manager, who then proceeded to tell her the exact same thing. She left almost screaming. My mum once went on holiday across the country and asked me for the home Wi-Fi password cause the hotel she was in wanted her to pay to use theirs. But I have it at home. She didn't get it and thought I was being so cruel not letting her use it. I used to work at Aaron Brothers. They had the famous buy a frame get another for a penny sale. People would try to return one frame, which obviously isn't allowed because then you're getting one frame for a penny. You have to return both frames. Seeing the blank stare of confusion as I explained that to people was always entertaining. If your payment term is 6 weeks, being on holiday for 2 weeks is not a valid reason for not paying within the payment term. If you want to continue using the service, you need to pay your bill, or why their services were suspended after they filed a chargeback. Feels like I'm talking to a child each time. There was a lot of chatter about people complaining recently that Sony was deleting the new Cyberpunk games off their PlayStation after they demanded and received refunds. Tweets all over about PPL getting mad that they couldn't have a refund and keep the product. I worked at a CVS in high school. Many weirdos shop at CVS, but the weirdest among them were the ones who bought diapers and then asked me if I knew how to put them on a baby. Maybe it's just my personal opinion, but if you're at the point in your life where you have to buy diapers and put them on a baby, you should have figured this out from someone other than the teenager at the cash register. When we had our baby, the hospital took the time to make sure we actually knew how to provide basic care and provided a parenting book that covered all of the basics. Not sure if this is standard or not, but it definitely should be. Part of me wonders if they were just trying to prank you. Worked at a coffee shop. Woman comes in saying that the mug she bought is defective. I ask what is wrong and she goes, "It says it's microwave and dishwasher safe." I put it in the microwave to heat it up and it got hot me. Yeah, it means it can be used in a microwave without breaking. Has a bowl never gotten hot when you've microwaved it? The contents heat up the container as well. Then it's not safe. I actually had a number of plates that were not microwave safe. They wouldn't break or contaminate the food. They'd just get 10 times as hot as the food you put on them. Holding title to something, e.g., vehicle, house, business license, in your name means that it is yours. There is no such thing as that's not really my car. It's my son's car. It's just in my name. Or the opposite of this. Investment account is in the wife's name. Husband calls and wants to talk about it, but it's my money. It's only in her name because she doesn't pay tax. Client bought a car from our dealership and called 2 days later to say that the back doors were not opening from the inside. Asked him specifically if the child lock is deactivated, to which he replied yes it is. Brought the vehicle back to us. One of our salespeople opens the door and deactivates the child lock while getting in. Opens the door and the client is absolutely mind blown that the door is suddenly opening. Your salespeople are obviously car whisperers. Explaining that having your nasty bus minivan cleaned in a $20, 15 minutes express wash and vacuum service will in fact not magically replace missing paint and remove 24 Jolly Ranchers melted into the carpet. She thought she was getting the GTA special car wash. Things don't have warranty after the warranty period. If you break something you don't have warranty. Warranty works by fixing the product, not giving you back the money or a totally different product. Also warranties are for defects, not because your klutzy butt dropped it, smashed it, lost it. That's what insurance is for, and yes there usually is a deductible. The package carrier says they delayed my package due to a hurricane. I paid for overnight shipping. Your company is trash. Me, sir, we didn't delay your package. The carrier is a different company, and there is a literal hurricane over the distribution center. Or, I paid extra for overnight shipping and you haven't shipped it yet. Me, on Monday morning, sir, you ordered Friday at 8 p.m. We close at 3 p.m. We don't work weekends, and neither do the shipping companies. So the soonest you could possibly receive it is Tuesday if we shipped it today. Additionally, you didn't pay extra for overnight shipping because we only offer one shipping method, and it is overnight. That you actually have to pay for things if you break them. I don't mean like a little tear that happened accidentally. I mean this woman cut up a shirt because she couldn't get it off. She pulled scissors out of her bag and cut up the sleeve and down the side. Handed it back to me and walked off. I called after her and said, "Mom, you have to pay for this," and she responded with, "But I don't want it and it's damaged now so I shouldn't have to pay for it." I then explained to her that as she was the one who damaged it and we can't sell it, that she has to pay, as is store policy and I'm fairly sure is a given in most stores. She just looked at me and said, "Well, can't you just see it back up?" No, that's not how it works, lady. In the end I radioed security and a store manager and she ended up paying for the shirt, which was £160. It was a rather pricey brand, but honestly who thinks that's an okay thing to do? An entitled B, that's who. That a color copier cannot magically make your black and white image into a color one. I've had to explain this to 2 different customers over the years and know of at least one instance where it happened to a coworker. In tech support, I had to explain to a nurse how to make a capital letter for her password. How do you get a nursing degree without ever making a capital letter on a keyboard? I used to work alone in a dry cleaners. A customer asked why I wasn't at the counter. I replied I was in the restroom. He said, "Why?" I hope you went into great detail about your bodily functions. 1. No, I don't have the ability to find exactly where your package is right now. I don't have any more information on that than you do. 2. No, I am not going to give you an entire purchase coupon because you were nice to me. 3. No, I can't stay on the phone with you while you drive to the store to return your item. If you do not need immediate assistance, I have to move on. 4. No, I can't use a coupon for item A if you are buying item B. 5. No, the item is not in the bag. 6. No, I can't call you if I am responding to your request via email. If you would like to speak to a representative, please call us. 7. No, I cannot give you the item for free simply because there is no tag on it. 8. No, you yelling at me is not teaching me anything, except that you are an butthole. Worked as a server at a higher-end steakhouse that had a beautiful patio. I was working a lunch shift on a day that was completely overcast. Looked like it could start pouring rain any minute, so we didn't open up the patio. The patio always had tables and chairs, but we didn't open any umbrellas or set any tables. A lady came in and asked for a seat on the patio. Weird due to the weather, but whatever. I walked her out to the patio and set up a table for her, and as I was walking away she asked if she could sit in a sunnier spot. None of the umbrellas were open. There were no sunny spots because the sun was not out. I just looked at her and told her she could have her pick of any of the tables. She looked around and it was like it finally dawned on her that it was not patio weather. Years later, and I'm still not sure if she thought I had some magical weather powers or if she thought if she just wanted it to be sunny strongly enough it would be. Maybe she was oblivious to the sky and thought she was in a shaded patio. Some places have a patio on two edges. My co-worker and I work at a deli. One day, a customer came up to them asking why their meat smelled weird. My co-worker asked, "Well, how long have you had it?" And then the co-worker said, "A few months." Why? Apparently, the dude never even knew that expiration dates existed. He said that his ex-wife always prepared foods for him. He pointed at various other foods and asked if they had expiration dates too. So my co-worker had to explain that each food had a different lifespan. Was he old? Because boomer men have this issue the minute they have to live alone for whatever reason. My friend's grandpa didn't know how to clean the house or prepare food. The place went to crap. Apparently after his wife divorced him. Can't imagine why. If the closed sign is up it means we're closed. Why am I still here then? Because I work here. But it says closed. Your work ends when it's closed. Well, that sure is news to me because that's not what my boss told me. Karen. That you have to pay back the money you spend on a credit card. Lady legit thought banks just handed them out. I asked what she did when it stopped working, and she replied, "I usually get another one." Yes, I realize that when you were given your social security number, back before the war, they told you to never tell it to anyone, but you called social security, and that's how you're identified in our system. So you're going to have to tell it to me or I can't help you. Back in the late 90s, I was working retail at a dollar store. One fellow who had one of those faces that made you wonder if he was related to himself came up to me and asked, "I crap you not. Do you have the thing with the thing that comes out?" I gave him a second to see if he would realize what he had said and provide some detail. After a beat or two, I said, "I'm sorry, sir. You will have to be a bit more specific. What thing are you looking for?" He made hand gestures, almost as if he were pulling open a door or something, and said, "You know, one of those things with the thing that comes out." Managing not to lose my temper, I said, "Sir, what does the thing do?" He said, "It makes coffee." I said, "Are you asking if we have coffee makers that have filter baskets that can be pulled completely out?" "Yes," he said. I replied, "No, sir. We don't have the thing with the thing that comes out. We only have the thing with the thing that swivels out. Sorry." Later, he came up to me. He held up a box of 35-gallon trash bags. He asked me, "Will these fit in that?" And he pointed at a trash can that was clearly marked 50 gallons. I said, "No, sir." He asked, "Why not?" I said, "Because that is a 50-gallon trash can, and those are 35-gallon bags." He looked at me blankly for a moment. I added, "35 is less than 50. Ah," he said, nodding sagely. You can't return a TV with a broken screen when it also has a boot print on it. Dude threw a punch at me over the counter after that conversation. That 30-plus-year-old ski boots that you've stored in an Arizona desert attic for 99% of their life do not get warranty coverage when they absolutely shatter in sub-zero temperatures because they've degassed all their plasticizers. Dude, I want to use degassed all their plasticizers in a sentence this week. Mind blown. Yes, the stairs indeed go up and down. No, the elevator does not go sideways. I'm really sorry you didn't know there are fish in the ocean. No, I can't do anything about it. No, our housekeeping services will not wipe your butt. If you are not able to do it yourself, I'm gonna need to ask you to leave our premises. Of course you can complain to the hotel director about it. Kick them out. I am very sorry you put your iPad, iPhone, and 3 other devices on one outlet with a cheap converter and started a fire in your room that destroyed them. We will not comp for your devices. Had to call security for this one. Luckily authorities were still around because we had a freaking fire. If you throw an electronic devices into the wall, it won't be covered by warranty, and it is certainly not my fault that said device doesn't start after doing that. If you don't pay your bill for several months, your service will get cut off. And no, we don't owe you money for the inconvenience of it. Also, if you don't pay your bill this month, you will owe more next month. And it's not because the price changed. I have had to explain to a shocking number of people that cellular signals can be blocked by structures, and garages and large buildings are well known for blocking cellular signals. I have also had to explain to a shocking number of people that battery life will vary based on usage. It will drain faster while you use it and slower while it's doing nothing. And even more surprising is the people I have to explain signal performance to people who lived through having to step outside to make a call because there was no signal inside. I used to work in a pancake restaurant. One day I was serving a customer. He didn't even bother to read the menu and he asked for pancakes with some specific jam. I told him that we do not have it by the menu and we do not have this kind of jam. He said that I should go to the nearby shop and get some for him because he doesn't want to eat pancakes with anything else. Yes, I needed to explain to an adult man that that's not how restaurants work. Worked in a coffee shop bookstore. We specialized in manga and comic books. You could either buy them or take a drink and read for as long as you wanted. Like, we didn't have any restrictions. You could read for 8 hours by buying a €1.50 coffee. Still had to explain multiple times a day that yes, you have to order and pay a drink if you want to sit and read. There was a good library where you could go to read for free, but we were a business and needed to make money. I've had people insulting me because of this. That's a really good deal actually. It's stupid people were angry about this. Sir, the CD is actually inside the case that you are trying to jam inside the CD player. What you need to do is open up that case, remove the disc, then insert it into the CD player. I worked in box office ticketing for several years. We do not control how fast mail is delivered to your home. If it was sold out when you asked the colleague to my right less than 1 minute ago, it's almost certainly still sold out now. No, we cannot discourage young people from attending orchestra concerts, and there's no problem with them enthusiastically cheering during the applause. No, I cannot tell you if your ex-girlfriend is attending this event and b, where she is sitting. If you ask me anything good coming up, I'm either going to tell you the popular shows in the future or the things I'm personally interested in. I don't know what constitutes good to you as you are a stranger. If you're picky about what events you like to attend, ask specific questions. No, I don't know about upcoming children's programming in Winnipeg while working at a venue in Toronto. If you want to leave a ticket for someone else to pick up, please provide their name rather than "my sister will be right here. She's blonde with a black jacket." Your credit card needs to have money on it when you're checking into a hotel. Giving me your maxed out credit card to hold until you get paid isn't a thing. 1. Yes, the can of Crisco has a picture of crispy fried chicken on it. No, the can does not contain crispy fried chicken. 2. No, birth control pills are not 100% effective. This was explained to a woman apparently quite near her delivery. And 3. No, we don't have fans that only blow cold air. I worked at a Kmart for longer than I care to admit, so I'm sure I could come up with lots more, but these are the first 3 that come to mind. Retail workers. What's the best threat you've ever received at work? I was a manager of a clothing boutique in the mall. I got the gig through a friend who later quit, opening up his manager position for me. Anyways, it was cake. All I did was make the schedule and enter a code to approve returns. One day I'm walking the floor and this lady flags me down. "Son, does that young man have an earring in his ear?" "Yes, he does. I'd like to speak to the manager." "Well, you're in luck. How can I help you?" I just think that's very showy, if you catch my drift. I'm afraid I don't, Mom. If he's queer, he should just keep that to himself. And it's your job to make sure he doesn't come to work like that. I'm sorry it offends you. He isn't gay. He's not making a statement. Well, if you aren't going to do anything about it, I'll just everyone I know that there are F working here. And she left and I barreled over with laughter. 6 months later, we went out of business. I guess she knew more people than I thought. I work at a retailer that sells popular body products. Fragrances come and go. That's just how it is. They can't keep them all forever. Well, sometimes people get so upset when I tell them their fragrance is no longer in a stores. However, most of them are online. A lady comes in today and demands a fragrance we don't have in stores. I very politely tell her we do not carry it in stores, but she can still find it online. She loses it. She starts screaming about how I am incompetent and how she should be able to buy it in store if it is online. Keep in mind, she is yelling at me, like screaming over a freaking scent of lotion. I tell her most online only products are marked that way, and I give her a customer service card. Because she is so irate and this company is obsessed with making customers happy, I tell her she can have 20% off her purchase. She screams at me and tells me if I don't give her money to cover shipping she's going to make me sorry. I tell her I can't just take money from the store. She says not from the store, you should give it to me. She wanted me to hand her money from my own freaking pocket to cover shipping. She actually said, I don't think I'm being unreasonable. I basically just stared at her. She said she was coming back, and I might want to reconsider. TLDR. Customer demands I pay her shipping costs for an only available online product from my own pocket. Many years ago at Starbucks, a 45-ish businessman approaches, me, hey, how's it going? Customer, how's it going? This isn't a freaking McDonald's. Okay, you'll address me as sir and take my order like a freaking professional. Do you understand me? Me, sarcastically, good day to you sir, and welcome to the Starbucks Coffee Corporation, where it is our aim to. At this point the guy is behind the counter and completely in my face, ready to throw down. I'm laughing, and the manager grabs him and escorts him to the door. Unlike most expelled customers, he never showed up again. A few years back I was working in a Starbucks and told a customer to have a nice day while I handed him his coffee. He replied with, don't you freaking tell me what to do. I'll take my business elsewhere. I'm never shopping here again. They always come back. There's almost nowhere else to shop in town. This story happened to my friend, and there were no real threats, just hilarity. My buddy was at a KFC in Chicago and the lady before him, alone, ordered 2 buckets of chicken. The guy behind the counter asks, is this for here or to go? And she suddenly screams, you think I'ma sit here and eat all this chicken by myself? And he screams back, I don't know your life. Perfect response. Looking back, I could have avoided a lot of pointless arguments in my past if I had only known the phrase, I don't know your life. I'm currently working at an art supplies store that isn't open until this Thursday. We've been in store since the 4th of February setting it up, and people always try to come inside, ignoring the 3 giant coming soon signs and the banner. Most people get to the automatic doors, realize they won't open, look around, and see the signs, then leave. Well, it was about 9:01 PM. We close at 9 regularly, and some butthole shows up and knocks on the door. I pry the doors open and tell him that we're closed. He says no, it'll only take a minute. Open a backup. I say no, sir, we're literally closed for the month. Butthole, what about all this crap on the shelves? Me, you mean the 1/3 of the store that's stocked? Yeah, we're in the process of opening this store. The sign says the 25th of February. Butthole, give me the store phone number. I'm calling your manager. Me, the store isn't open. The phone doesn't work, but my manager is in the back. I can go get her. Butthole, no, boy, I'm dealing with you. Me, well, we're closed. Butthole, threatening voice, just you wait, I'm coming back. Me, but that's what I've been trying to get you to do. Guy goes to his car and peels out and leaves. A few years ago, I worked as a cashier at a grocery store. This woman comes up to the register one day with a bottle of vitamins and demands that I give her a refund. In order for me to do that, she must have a receipt and I need a manager to clear it. So I ring up the manager, ask for a receipt, and she keeps telling me, I bought this yesterday. I forgot my receipt. Just give me my refund. I keep persisting, telling her I'll need a receipt, and by the time the manager gets up to my cash, she, the woman, is furious. All of a sudden she goes, these vitamins give you herpes. They give you herpes. All your products are poisonous. She storms down one aisle and tosses all sorts of products onto the floor. My manager had to restrain her until security was able to escort her out. These vitamins are made out of people. One day while working at an adult clothing store, I noticed a 2-year-old walking around with one of the hooks we use to get shirts for high shelves. I walked up to the little boy, his mother was right behind him, and said I was sorry but I had to take it away because I didn't want him to hurt himself. His mother, ignoring me, told him that if he hurt himself the store would be liable and they would get lots of money. I was so shocked, I just walked away. Please leave the premises, as you constitute too much risk to allow you to remain in the store. I had a lady call in and she just started screaming obscenities at an associate, telling us we're all kinds of horrible people, and she's going to sue us, because she was in the store yesterday, and bought a pack of highlighters. Then, apparently she fell asleep for only 10 minutes and her dog ate them, and now he's dying. Yup, she was going to sue the manager, because, according to her, her dog was half brain dead now, and all it does is run in circles. The associate finally was able to transfer her to her manager, but she just continued yelling obscenities and threatening to sue. So, of course, the manager countered with, first of all, that's really nothing you can sue us for, considering we didn't make the product, nor did we feed it to your dog. And secondly, if your dog is sick and or dying, the first thing you need to do is get him to a vet. The lady, of course, thought nothing of this and threatened to hire a lawyer. But first, she was going to bring the dog into the store so we could see what we had done to him, and so that we could feel the guilt of our sin. And if he died first, she actually threatened to throw the dead dog at our manager. I was so disappointed when she never showed up. As much as I love dogs, I can't help but crack up at the image of a crazy lady throwing a dead dog at a store manager. I worked at a used clothing store where people would come in to sell their clothes to us, but we obviously were very picky about what we took. This created many angry customers. I have 2 favorites. The woman that crap in our dressing room to spite us is one. Another woman tried on all the new bathing suits with her period so they all had blood stains. Quite a bit of effort just for us not taking some of their stained clothes. We also never sold bathing suits again. So, the threat worked. Whoa. I work at a smoke shop in a college town. All in all, the customers are pretty cool, get a few tweakers every now and then looking for crack pipes and such. So in our shop you are not allowed to refer to a bong as a bong. It must be called a water pipe because bong implies drug use. And yes, I know what people are doing with them. It's just the hoop we have to jump through. I operate on a 3-strike policy. If I warn you 3 times I will ask you to leave. I had a guy that just wouldn't stop saying bong and kept making really blatant drug references and asking me where he could score. When I finally had enough and asked him to leave, he started backpedaling, saying that he would behave. I told him again he needed to leave as I could not sell him anything because he made it abundantly clear that he was going to use it for pot. His attitude changed as he pulled out a police badge. The guy wrote me and the shop a ticket for selling paraphernalia, which was like $2,000. Fortunately we have cameras with audio that caught the whole thing on tape. The charges got dropped and the guy was supposedly suspended. Now the cops around town love our shop and actually go out of their way to make sure everything is cool after us. I worked in a clothing store several years back and some guy was screaming at the top of his lungs as well as throwing insults at me and my shift supervisor. That is, calling me an incompetent frick and her a fat ugly bee, all in front of other customers because we couldn't redeem a coupon. We asked him to leave and he threatened to call mall security on us, at which point I turned around, phone in hand, and said, "Don't worry, I've already taken care of that." He and his haggard excuse for a wife left immediately. A disgruntled timeshare owner faxed a death threat to my office in Sedona, Arizona, complete with the date and time he planned to come to the office with his various firearms to discuss his complaints. To his credit, he was a man of his word and showed up promptly at the specified time. He received a sentence of 6 to 18 months. Well, you're in the business of selling timeshares, so you probably deserved it. Years ago, when I worked at a department store, I had a lady try to return something that was not from our store. It was the store brand from a different department store. It wasn't a very heated exchange, although I had to call a manager to repeat what I had said. We couldn't take it back. It was from XXX store. The lady left, and I thought it was over, until I went to lunch. No longer wearing my name tag, just regular clothes. I'm not sure if she was waiting for me in the mall, or if she had just happened to see me while still shopping, but to me it doesn't matter. She approached me, and proceeded to cuss me out up and down, call me every name in the book, and then shove me for not taking back an item of clothing. Mall security escorted her out. Whilst delivering a pizza that was paid for by credit card over the phone. Me. Please sign this copy of the receipt. Lady, it freaking says tip here? Me. Yes ma'am. If you wish you can include a tip on the card you used to purchase the pizza. Lady, you don't deserve no freaking tip you piece of crap n. I'm white. I dropped her pizza into a mud puddle next to her porch and walked away. Not because I got stiffed. That happens all the time. B didn't have to be so rude though. She can no longer order from our store. Epilogue. She ate it anyway. I'll gut you like a fish. From a rage addict while I was working at a Taco Bell while I was 16. He was seriously fricked up and thought I had sold him something that made his sister overdose. I walked into the back office and called the cops. It was freaking scary. Must have been all the silicates and the meat and all. I'm going to come down to that call center and rip your face off. To which I replied good luck, sir, and then hung up, as we could if we got threatened. He lived a few states away. I was amused. A customer once filed a public complaint with the BBB demanding that we pay for a year of his college, along with unspecified additional damages, due to delays in a non-warranty repair that allegedly led to him failing his exams, leading to him having to pay for an additional year of school, leading to stress in his marriage and familial relationships. I believe he even tossed in the threat of actual, genuine legal action. Also good is about 6 different occasions where I've had people threaten to report the store I was working at, several stores, for false advertising. You see, there were sale tags up. Sale tags that list the expiration date of the sale. Rest assured, I wasn't calling my manager over that crap. Not going to lie, though, I have a standard response for whenever I get threats. See, people tend to attempt legal threats over warranty conditions. Frequently, I fix computers. There can be delays in repairs, up to 6-8 weeks, specified in the warranty. Physical damage and software issues, not covered, specified in the warranty. People still regularly threaten to sue over all 3. When they do, I tell them in that case, I'm no longer able to help you as I'm not authorized to deal with legal matters for the company. Please send a letter to our legal department, and we can send your computer home with you or keep it here until legal tells us what to do. Remarkable how quickly these lawsuits evaporate. I worked at this terrible call center before the awesome job I have now. They sold everything from roller hose, perfect pancake, tourist pamphlets, and Girls Gone Wild. Basically any infomercials product. They were contracted by hundreds of companies, and when the call came in the number dialed would bring up whatever product they were calling for on the computer. I cannot count the number of times people would jack off and ask me if I was the one in the pink top they were watching on the GGW commercial. I had a few people call just to say I'm gonna kill you. By this time I was completely indifferent and had only apathy for them. Of the several weird things that happened while there, the one I won't forget was this guy that would call and ask about a spray that you were supposed to squirt into your mouth and it would help prevent snoring. Never snore. At the time, the product was no longer available for sale through my call center, but if someone called about it, we could offer some very limited information. To buy it, the guy had to call a different 800 number. The first time I spoke to this guy, he asked questions about the product and how it worked. Seemed totally normal confused customer. A few weeks later, I got a call about the same product. This was weird because we almost never got calls for old products, let alone the same product more than once, especially since the commercials weren't playing anymore. After answering some slightly odd questions about the application of the spray in the mouth, the call ended and I wondered, is it the same guy from before? The third time he called a few weeks later, He finally revealed enough for me to get what he was going for. This time he told me how his girlfriend snores and he wanted to use the spray to help when they sleep. He said he was worried though, since it was sprayed in the mouth, that she would, you know, in the back of her mouth. From there on he kept trying to get me to say gag, and he was getting off on the word. That's when the previous calls clicked in my mind and I understood that his whole point to calling before was just to get a girl to talk about gagging. It was really odd that I happened to get him 3 times, considering how many reps there were taking calls. Made me wonder how many times he called. I didn't have any of this guy's fave ciggies, so he gets pee off and threatens to jump the counter and bash me. I just said don't worry about jumping, I'll just open the door and let you in. Let's see what you've got. He declined. That's pretty bad, but haha. I worked at a nice rink in a pretty affluent area up until a year or 2 ago. Friday and Saturday nights the rink had free skate nights that mostly drew the middle school crowd, as there was a public middle school next door. These are 11-14-year-olds with the guys dressed gangster and the girls in bicycle shorts, push-ups and tank tops in a nice rink, referred to the rest of the post as prostitutes. The rink has a city police officer come to run security on the place because these kids sneak off into first aid rooms to do whatever. Some of the things I've dealt with. I was working with a very passive co-worker one night in the concession stand. He was leaning on the counter on his elbows when 2 kids, 13-14, walk up, pull their wallets out, and proceed to see who has a bigger wad of cash on them. Both had $60+ on them. Our food isn't cheap. $3-ish for fries, $2-ish for hot chocolate, but not a $60 night. One of them emerges victorious from the money count and presses the wad of cash in my co-worker's face. You like how that smells? Kid got thrown out later that night for making an butt of himself regardless. Management knew who he was. Self-entitled prats reaching over the counter and stealing stuff on display. Candy, whipped cream dispensers, dipping sauce cups, anything they could reach. I've had prostitutes come to the counter and try and push their A cups up to get free crap. Stealing whipped cream dispensers. What? You should really affix those large, heavy machines to the floor to prevent children from absconding with them. I used to work at an upscale boutique a few years ago. Note, I will become a crack dealer before ever working in retail ever again, and a customer tried to return a $1,200 dress that had clearly been worn. Makeup stains, flecks of wine and significant remnants. She demanded a refund because the tag was still intact. I pointed out the stains and explained that because she clearly wore the dress we couldn't take it back. Then she says, what if I get it dry cleaned? I shake my head no. Her eye twitches, her face goes red, and she begins screaming that she is going to sue my stupid butt off and that her husband will close the store down. The owner of the boutique, a Polish woman who takes crap from no one, comes out of the back, glares at the woman and hisses at her peasant. The woman grits her teeth and stomps out of the store. Slow claps. That has got to be the best retort I have heard yet. I refused service to someone for not having it. He threatened to rip my mustache off of my face. I laughed and winced at the same time. Still makes me wince to this day. The thing is, they don't come off all at once like a band-aid. You have to knock the guy down and then you end up plucking his face like a chicken. By the time you're done, everybody involved just feels stupid. I worked at a Burger King when I was 16 where we got crazy amounts of buses. Could tell 100 stories, but only got threatened once though. We had this special for Lent where you could get 2 fish sandwiches for $3, but you had to get the 2 if you got 1, or 1 and a meal. It was like $2.20 or something for the odd sandwich. Anyways, this fattest on a Greyhound bus came in and was bitching about everything. She wanted mustard and tartar sauce on her sandwiches. Tried it later, bletched, and she told me like a bazillion times to make sure it got it right because none of you lazy FCKS ever gets them right. Anyways, she orders 3 of these mustard and tartar sauce monstrosities, and I told her that the odd one would be like $2.20. But she told me she didn't care. So obviously after getting her order, she comes up and starts screaming that I cheated her. I told her I had not and offered to ask the store manager, who was my cousin 21 years older than me, don't ask, to deal with the problem. Anyways, she told me, Literally, that the customer is always right, and if I didn't give her money back, she'd jump over the counter and FCK me up. Being 16, I told her to go ahead and try it. So she actually did. Only she was so fat she couldn't really jump, and so she threw her empty water bottle at me and almost missed, even though she was like 5 feet away. Then she sort of rolled over the counter and put up her dukes. At this point, I was laughing my butt off because it was so awesome with her lard rippling down from her fattest arms. My cousin told someone else to call the cops, told me to take a break in the back and get some food if I wanted, then told Lardface exactly what would happen if I sued her for assault, since I was a minor, and my cousin could prove that I did nothing actionable. Even better, everyone on the bus had to wait for the cops to get there because the bus driver had to stay to report to the cops what had gone down. It took about an hour for Greyhound to get another bus there to pick up the other passengers. So needless to say, there were plenty of volunteers to tell the cops about Lardface's stupidity. TLDR. Told Fattest that she'd have to pay extra for buying an odd number of sandwiches. Got called a liar, assaulted, and almost got to beat up said Fattest and get away with it. Self-defense and minor FTW. A woman was trying to return Christmas gifts without a receipt, and we couldn't give her cash, just a gift card or an exchange. She said that wasn't acceptable because she didn't like our clothes and never shopped there. I knew our DM would say no to a cash override because of all the thefts in the area at that time. I watched him say no to an identical situation earlier that day, so I apologized but said that was all I could do for her. So she stamped her foot saying, "I'll never shop here again." And everyone at the service desk laughed while I pointed out you never have, so I guess that's okay. She turned an odd shade of purple and left. Pooped on that bee. I worked at a computer repair desk at my university. We had a guy come in who had some hardware issue which gets escalated to our full-time hardware guys. There was some mix-up with his warranty claim and the part was a week or 2 late. We apologize and offer him a discount for his trouble. Then he had some software issue, so we sat down with him and took a look at it. I can't remember the details of what we messed up, but he threatened to come back with his MP5 and shoot us all and then blow up the building. So we blocked the door and called the police. I'm a restaurant manager, and one woman who wasn't satisfied with her Caesar salad once threatened to call her congressman. I believe she said this is why we have elected officials. I had to excuse myself for fear of laughing directly at her. I worked at a sandwich shop and this guy ordered 2 sandwiches on white bread. I misheard him and thought he said wheat. He wasn't facing the counter when he stated his order and started to put cheese on them, but clarified before putting them in the oven and immediately corrected the mistake. Took about 15 seconds. He got so enraged over this minor mistake he held his hand up like he was about to backhand me and said, "You people always get this wrong. I can't believe this. Can I slap you?" Lady came to the gas station I work at and gets a fill up. I tell her how much it is, and she holds out a debit card. "Oh, you'll have to come in for that." "No I don't. You have the portable machine." "Oh, sorry, we haven't had that for ages. You have to come in. I was here just the other day and used it." "No you didn't. We haven't had it since July." "Well, I'm never coming here again." "Oh number. Not lady I've never seen before." "Not you. Please no." I worked at Gamacrazy at the time. It was near Christmas and a woman came in and bought a Guitar Hero 3 bundle. Fast forward 3 days. Man and woman come in to return the bundle because he didn't want it. He was very thugged out. Says, "Yo man, I am low on dough right now. When is this refund gonna credit back in my account? Can I get cash?" I informed him that I could not give him cash as he paid with his card. I said that it could be anywhere from 1-3 business days for it to credit back to his account, but to make sure he checks the balance before spending. He complained about needing gas, but there was nothing I could do. Next day, less than a week before Christmas, huge line waiting to buy gifts. Phone rings. It's him, and he's angry. "Man, I thought you said I'd get my money back." "I'm sorry sir." "Who is this?" "B, I came up there yesterday to refund Guitar Hero, and you said it'd get my money back." "You will get your money back sir. It will take anywhere from 1-3 days. You said I'd get IT immediately. I bought gas after I left and now my account is all fricked up. Cause of you." Sir, I never said that you would get it immediately. You're really starting to piss me off. I ought to come up there and beat your butt. By this time, everyone in line had noticed that this guy was full on yelling at me over the phone. You could, but you just refunded something here. Your name and address are on file, sir. Well then you better pay me back yourself. I can't do that, sir. I told you that you should check your balance before using your card. It isn't my fault you overdrafted. I'm gonna be up there to whoop your butt in a minute, boy, unless you have my money. If you come up here, I'm going to call the police. He hangs up. Everyone in line is really nice. Tells me not to worry about it. He never showed up. At some point in the conversation I told him that if he didn't stop yelling I would hang up, but he wouldn't stop. Crazy people. If you come up here, I'm going to call the police. At this point in the story, he had already committed assault and you had witnesses. Maybe I'm more vindictive, but I would have called the police at this point just in case he makes good on his promise in the future. What's your best "the customer is not always right" story? I once worked at Kinko's, long ago. One dude was so angry, even as I started helping him. He asked for a bunch of copies. I made them and set them down in front of him. How's that look, I asked. Well, you printed them upside down. Guy was edgy. So I turned the stack of pages 180 degrees. The guy says, "Dut, I don't like your attitude. Some people are determined to be displeased." That phrase, "determined to be displeased," is quite satisfying in both its sentiment and the way it rolls off the tongue. Worked in a store that sells ice cream cakes. Woman came in with half a cake. We thought it had been melted. Nope. Much more concerning, her son had a piece yesterday and got ill. They didn't make the connection until the daughter ate a piece that morning and also became ill. To say the least, my manager was freaking out. If there's some kind of food poisoning going on, the whole store could be shut down and it would be a huge mess. She passes me the cake and tells me to check who made it so we can call it in. I open up the case, look at it, and it took every bit of control I could muster to not laugh in front of the customer. The cake was a Valentine's Day cake, and it was September. My manager had to explain to the woman that half-eaten ice cream cakes don't hold for a half a year, and the woman kept insisting we test it. I'm a cake decorator. We recently had a customer pick up her cake which had a printed picture of a high heel shoe that she sent us. On top, she goes, "What the frick is this?" and starts flipping out, banging on tables, screaming at the top of her lungs in front of other customers, trying to fight the owner, threatening to come back with a gun. We had to call the cops. Turns out, she had wanted a lifelike edible version of the shoe, not a printed picture. So all this, because when she ordered the cake she did not know the difference between 2D and 3D. Just remember, kids, it's worth threatening people and sacrificing your freedom because you didn't like your cake. I was working at a concession at a racetrack at the time, running the register. This one particular night it was super busy. It was the last race weekend of the season. We ran out of Coke, and the deep fryer caught fire. I was at the burger stand and the line was crazy. This one lady came and ordered a burger with cheese. Trying to be quick, I yelled back to the cooks, "1 cheeseburger." She looks at me and huffs. "No, I said a burger with cheese, not a cheeseburger," so I had to yell back, "Sorry, a burger with cheese. Cancel the cheeseburger." It's just one of the many moments in my customer service retail career that made me question my sanity just a little. This reminded me of when I was in Japan and had to do this as a customer. I wanted a hamburger, but the lady said, "I'm very sorry, we don't carry hamburgers anymore, only cheeseburgers." I donned my best poker face and said, I understand. A cheeseburger please, without cheese." I got my hamburger. We write software for scanning tickets at clubs. The software allows you to get a report of how many people were checked in overall, so it's used to prove that the place isn't over capacity. A potential client wanted a secret button he could click that would lower the ticket count by 15% in case the fire marshal showed up. Should have made it go up by 15% if the fire marshal showed up and he pressed it. As the cashier behind me finishes ringing up the customer's order for groceries, well over $100, the man yells at the cashier that the total is wrong. The register added incorrectly. The cashier and him went over every item to make sure nothing was the wrong price or double scanned. Everything scanned was correct. The machine just added incorrectly according to him. This poor lady had to clear out the order, which is a very difficult process. Take everything out of the bags and ring it up again. Same total. I was a furniture delivery guy in college. A woman ordered this high-back red leather chair. We delivered it and she complained about the grain in the leather. We explained that leather is a natural product and bears irregularities. If she wanted uniformity, she should buy vinyl. She got insulted and informed us in no uncertain terms that she was well off and would only buy genuine leather. We took the chair back to the store and exchanged it for the other one we had, a floor model. We brought that one out and she did the same thing, pointing out things in the grain that she disliked. We took it back to the store and asked the owner what to do. By then the chair was actually no longer made, so he told us to bring the first chair again. We delivered those same 2 chairs 7 times. She never caught on and eventually decided she really liked the 7th chair, which was, of course, the one she originally hated. Used to work in a pharmacy. In Ontario, Canada, if you are 65 plus, the government will pay for your meds once you have paid a certain amount in a year out of pocket. This was 7 years ago, so I don't remember exactly what the amount was, but it was around $250 or something. Basically, starting in August you paid for all your expenses out of pocket until you hit the magic number, then the government paid for everything minus the dispensing fee. Anyway, for months and months ahead of time we would give reminders to the older patients who came to the pharmacy saying, okay, next time you come in for a refill you'll have to pay the full amount. In approximately 80% of cases they did not believe me when the time came. Would start yelling at me, threatening to call their doctor, lawyer, kids or grandkids. Pharmacists would inevitably have to come over and defuse the situation. Repeated every year for the 4 years I worked there. Freaking old people. I used to work in a patisserie. We specialized in wedding cakes, and this guy ordered a Noah's Ark cake. My boss made these cute little fondant animals going into an ark on the sides of the baby blue cake. The customer came to pick it up and as soon as he looked at the cake his nose scrunched up and he frowned. He said, "This cake looks absolutely horrible. I demand a refund," as he had prepaid. I called my boss several times, but no answer, and I told him I could hold on to the cake until my boss was free and could call him back personally. He starts yelling at me, a minimum wage cashier, and demanding his refund. I told him I wasn't able to because of my position and tried calling my boss again. He continued yelling. I asked him to calm down or I would have to ask him to leave. He yelled back at me one more time, "I want my freaking refund," to which I told him again I couldn't do. So his response was to open the cake box, remove the cake, and throw it at me. I ducked. It hit the wall, and I told him in no small way that he wouldn't get his refund back and if he didn't leave I would call the cops. The next day he called the patisserie and demanded to talk to my boss. She told him that since he threw the cake at her employee and that he wouldn't just relax and let her call him back, he wouldn't get his cake and was permanently banned from the establishment. TLDR. Some guy ordered a cake and threw it at me when I couldn't get him a refund without my boss. In college, I worked for a kitchen bath bedding superstore. There was a special on high-end pots and pan sets. Essentially, if you bought a particular set, $250-ish, you got an accompanying pan for 1 cent. The signage was very clear that the bonus pan was only a penny if you bought the full set. It was in large print. I was a cashier, and I rang up the pan for the regular price, $75, because she didn't have the set. She immediately exploded and said the pan was on sale for 1 penny. I didn't work in that depth but knew that was bulls. I called my other manager up, who calmly explained what the special was. She said we were trying to scam her and manipulate customers, and actually made us call corporate because we were too stupid to understand the sale. After she and my manager spoke to someone, corporate said to give her the pan for a penny and tell her we appreciated her business. I, to this day, remain peeved that the woman was rewarded for throwing a hissy fit. Worked on a ferry dock that sent cars over. On a fairly busy day a woman came and parked her car in the ferry line and then left. When the ferry came, we had to load the cars on the ferry. Customers drove them on first. Well, This woman wasn't back yet, so we had caused a huge confusion on the dock trying to fish out the cars and trucks behind her. We finally got everything loaded and sent the boat off, only about 5-10 minutes late on a tight schedule. Woman comes back and sees that we skipped her and starts bitching at me, an 18-year-old lowly dockhand, and starts bitching hardcore about how we weren't allowed to skip her and should have went looking for her. I told her that we've never done that and how she caused us to be late. She then asked for my superior, who luckily backed me up. She then, still not convinced, called the owner of a ferry because of course she knew him. That's when I thought I was frick, because even though I knew I was right, I thought the owner would take the side of his friend. However, he stayed on my side and defended me, much to the anger of this woman. We got her on the next ferry, and I told the captain to put her car on the side that would get the most water from the waves, and he smiled and did so. A few hours later, the owner of the ferry came over and bought me an ice cream, telling me he was sorry I had to deal with his bitchy friend. TLDR. Got ice cream from my boss because bitchy customer thought time revolved around her. Working at a pawn shop when a kid and his parents come in. The kid wants to sell his original Xbox and wants an outrageous amount, claiming he had modded it and installed a large HDD. Parents were backing him up during the whole thing, claiming how he was so good with computers and technology. At the time I was modding plenty of Xboxes for friends, so right off the bat I could tell the kid was full of crap. The Xbox still had the stock crappy dashboard and warranty sticker had not been broken yet. Still couldn't convince the kid's parents otherwise. Finally I cracked the case open on the counter and showed the parents the stock 8GB drive. Needless to say, they were pissed there so and left with him in tow and the Xbox. Felt pretty good after that. I'm happy that it was simply a case of the parents trusting their son and then being reasonable after being proven wrong. I'd be mad if they'd instantly dismissed what he said because he's a kid, and just as mad if they'd insisted they were right about his mods and crap after proven wrong. Back in the day of working a crappy drive-through, I had a guy in a new car come through and proceed to hit a pole or wall on his way up. He began to yell at me about how this car just cost him $40,000 and he is expecting compensation for the damage we did to his car and how it's all our fault. I told him that if he is going to buy a car that expensive, he should be able to drive it properly, which I know was rather rude, but 15-year-old me had no patience for anyone like that, and then rang up his order. He then went off again about how we should be compensating him for his car and he couldn't believe I was going to, gasp, still charge him for his meal. Sorry buddy, I am not responsible for your inability to drive. I had a customer read my name tag when I worked at a local coffee shop. He then looked at me and said, "That is a very peculiar name." I mentioned to him I was named after an automobile. He then proceeded to tell me that I could not be named after an automobile because that is illegal. Me being polite just went along with him, until he told me that I should change my name because it was copyright infringement and that he will report me to the right authorities. I really hated that job. With people like this you should just play along. Yep. My parents bought the rights to use it as a name and had to pay $10,000 for the rights to use it, and half my salary goes to maintaining the rights every year. Worked at GameStop. We had a policy against returning opened new games. However, the way the games were stored displayed meant the last copy was always opened. Case on the floor, game behind the counter. In this case we had plastic stickers we placed over the edge to seal it, and always pointed this out to customers, at least at my store. So this rich looking lady comes in, tosses a crappy Pets DS game on the counter and demands a refund. It's the display copy, and I can immediately see there is no plastic seal. I kindly explained the policy to her, apologized, offered a trade-in, etc. She was not having it, and became increasingly rude. Well, he didn't open it. He's been with me the whole time. The game was bought over a week prior. He just doesn't want it. Are you calling me a liar? Typical entitled customer bulls. So I finally decide I'm done. I'm dropping it. Score 1 for the customer. I'll convert the game to use later. I open the case to put the game in an envelope, and it's not there. The look on this woman's face after she had rudely insisted for 10 minutes that her bratty kid had never opened the thing was absolutely freaking priceless. I just showed her and she walked out without another word. I'm surprised she didn't try to insist that you sold her an empty case. How dare you sell me an unopened empty case? I work in a large chain home improvement store. I don't know how often it is demanded of me, a barely above entry level employee, to provide a 35 to 50% discount on all kinds of goods. Whenever I refuse, they want the manager, who tells them the same. When the manager leaves, they try me again like I'll magically be capable and willing to give them absurd discounts. You start smiling at them and you say today's your lucky day. Today is deep discount day. Then you ring everything up at the full price. They'll go, wait a minute, I thought you said today's deep discount day. Then you say today's your lucky day. Today is deep discount day, while staring directly at them at a point 10 feet past their face. And you smile the whole time you're doing it. I used to work in university housing. A dad called my supervisor and demanded that his son's roommate get evicted because his son bribed the roommate to move out and he didn't. Oh no. That guy's son also harassed me, threatened me, asked me to embezzle money, demanded me, my staff, and my boss be fired, then sued me. He wants to be a congressman, no joke. I have complete confidence that he will, in fact, be a congressman one day. When I waited tables, a lady got mad at me because her iced tea wasn't cold. I couldn't find a way to chill it since she told me minutes earlier that she was allergic to ice. While working at the store that was created in the very depths of Satan's anus, Walmart, I was pulled from my regular spot in apparel to the registers when they were having a huge wave of people. Having done registers 2 or 3 times, I was pretty used to it and was only a little challenged with remembering the fruit vegetable codes and such. So anyway, I open a lane and up walks a very wide, very tall man with a cart overflowing with food. Cool, whatever. I ask how he is and begin ringing up his items. All is well and we're about $350 into his transaction when the goddamn cabbage reaches me. It didn't have a sticker and I didn't remember the code, so I quickly check the chart by the register for the code, type it in, the scale weighs the infant-sized cabbage and calculates the price. All is well. I go to bag the cabbage when I hear, "That's not how much that is." I double check to make sure it wasn't rung up multiple times and explain that it costs X amount per whatever weight. Cabbage is poor man's food, it shouldn't be that freaking much. I'm not paying that much for cabbage. Once again I try to explain to him that it's all based on weight and I can't lower the price of his cabbage. After yelling at me and berating me over this, he wants to see a manager. Fine. Frick you, but fine. So I call up a manager who is obviously already very done with everyone's crap and explain to him what's going on. He tells the customer exactly what I did but offers to remove it if it's really that big of a deal. Guy says no, it's fine, whatever. At this point I'm nearly in tears and just want to get back to folding t-shirts. I finish ringing up his items in silence while the customer keeps telling me how I should at least offer him a discount or give him the cabbage for free since I caused so much trouble. TLDR. Fat man screams at me about the price of his cabbage despite his entire purchase being around $400. He wanted you to give him a discount for the trouble you caused by charging him the correct price. That's an impressive amount of gall. I'm a pharmacy technician and one time a patient told me her doctor said she could not have Tylenol, but acetaminophen was fine. But they're the same thing. Tylenol is just the brand name. She was convinced I was wrong. I used to do outdoor catering. We would set up a grill and buffet at people's houses. We cook, they ate. One windy day I was set up for a grad party or something, cooking away. There was only one location I was allowed to grill, so that's where they put me. Fine. After the burger grease and such start falling onto the coals, a significant amount of smoke rises as you would expect. The wind was blowing it in their direction. Mind you, they're like 30 yards away, so it's not like I'm fumigating them. The lady comes over screaming to make the smoke stop going that way and proceeds to tell me to turn the grill the other way. Mom, the orientation of the grill will not change wind direction. After arguing with her, I rotate the grill. Smoke still coming. She then proceeds to tell me how I need a wall to block the smoke. Calls my boss, complains about me, about smoke, about not having a wall by the grill, which would accomplish about as much as turning the grill around. But then the wind would just blow some of the smoke over the wall in her direction and then she will demand a higher wall. I worked retail as an assistant manager for a few years while in college. I had a woman come in and proceed to tell me she had a return. She said she needed to return her wallet because the purse that matched it had broke, so she had no use for it now. I proceeded to smile and ask where the return was. She then proceeded to show me the wallet she was using and started pulling her money, license, and act out of it. This wallet looked beat to heck and broken in. It looked like you would figure an old wallet would look. I stood there for a minute contemplating if this woman was for real. Turns out, she was. I told her, ma'am, I cannot take back a used wallet because you bought a matching purse and it broke. She went on a tirade from there. Your other store took the purse back and I had used it. Blah blah blah. I want my money. Rah rah rah. I want to talk to your manager. He looked at it and told her no. She spent another 20 minutes getting the district manager's number. She went on yelling about how we were racist and if she was white we would have returned it. We were both minorities, might I add. We didn't return it because it was used to heck. It had her money, license, credit cards, and kid's photo in, and for God's sake, no, I am not returning the wallet you walked in using. Oh, without the receipt, might I also add. Retail never ceased to amaze me. Dude came in wanting to return a can of Lysol. No problem, except the can looked like it was from the 70s, was rusty, and his receipt was from a local store that closed in the late 80s. Probably not the greatest story ever, but here goes. I work at a fuel depot in a small town in Oss, and our focus is on delivering to local farms. We do run fuel on the forecourt, but we don't keep usual service station hours. I had just returned from my scheduled 1-hour lunch break to find a gentleman on the forecourt waiting to fuel up with LPG, of which we are the only supplier in town. After filling up and coming up to pay, he proceeds to ask what kind of fuel station closes for lunch. After explaining that I am required by law to close for lunch, he launches into a tirade. That's nonsense. There's no such law about fuel stations closing for lunch, and begins to call me a lazy prick and a liar. After a few minutes of me staring deadpan, he finally finishes complaining. I politely, but not calmly, explain that Australia's laws, and more specifically, my award agreement, specifies that I can work 5 hours before taking a mandatory lunch break, and that any issues with my working hours need to be raised with my manager, and that I would give him my manager's number if he would like to follow it up. The bloke ended up leaving, and the next day my manager called to ask what had happened. I explained everything, and my manager then told me this gentleman claimed he had been ignored, and then verbally abused when he had requested service. My manager had already checked the security camera footage and seen what had happened, and just wanted to confirm. Frick that guy though. Back when I was working at a small ice cream store, we made our own ice cream. There was a woman who came in asking for a few pints of vanilla. While I was filling up the containers, she mentioned to me that she was going on the road and that she wanted it packed in such a way that it wouldn't melt. I told her that I wasn't aware of anything like that, but since I was a new employee at the time, I asked one of my more senior colleagues to help me out. She came out and told the woman that we don't have anything like that, and that we've never had anything like that. The woman insisted that she'd been given this packaging before, and when my friend firmly told her that was impossible, she started throwing a fit. Tears were in fact shed, until my manager came out and calmed her down. I wrapped it as best I could in paper bags, and she left, clearly still upset. My manager then turned to me and said that woman has been here 3 times. She has always asked for insulation. We've never had any and never given her anything beyond extra paper bags. I used to work at a frozen yogurt place. We'd just give them bags with ziplocks of ice around them. I worked at a drugstore as a cashier shift supervisor for 7 years, so I have 1,000 stories I could tell. Some of the worst customers were the extreme couponers. I love a good deal as much as the next person, but we had a handful of regulars who would scam our policies, thinking they were so much smarter than us, and we couldn't do anything about it. One of the worst times was when I almost called the cops on a guy for screaming at me, leaning over the counter and pointing his finger in my face. I don't remember the exact item, but it was for a certain brand and specific count of vitamin, not even in small print very clearly stated. The brand was on sale, but only up to a certain size, not including what the coupon was for. He demanded I let him use the coupon so he could basically get it for free. Mind you, like $3 off or something. And when I wouldn't, he called me stupid and got in my face. He used the customer is always right line on me, and I said well in this case you should probably read the coupon and I won't commit fraud. TL. DR. Angry jerk got in my face because he was too stupid to read a coupon. A customer came up to me, the manager, with a warm smile and an extended hand. I grabbed his hand and shook it, as normal people in society do. He immediately dropped his smile and said angrily, "You may have noticed my hands are soaking wet. You are completely out of paper towels in the bathroom." I pulled my hand back. "That's because there are no paper towels in the bathroom. There are hand dryers." I was caught off guard by this one. That's not even particularly mean or rude, it's just really weird. I was at work, S-Bucks, and there was a lady that came in wondering about the difference between a frappe and a latte. She's a regular and usually gets brewed coffee, so I explained it to her. Blended versus espresso. She asked if they both came in decaf and I said yes. She asked for the strongest tasting drink we have and I said plain espresso has the strongest taste and is stronger than the brewed. She ended up ordering an Americano, venti, and asked for it in decaf and I said sure. She later exclaimed that she was going to work a 12-hour day and needed the caffeine. I told her multiple times that decaf means no caffeine and pretty much just the flavor. She told me I was wrong and told my boss I was wrong. Why? I worked at a gas station. Guy walks in, asks for cigarettes, I ring them up. Guy flips his crap that I'm ripping him off. The sign clearly says $5.83 and tax. He wants to know why they are $6.15 or whatever sales tax adds to them. I then spent 5 minutes of my life explaining the intricacies of sales tax to a 42-year-old child. I worked as a Seattle's best barista at a Borders bookstore back when that was a thing. RIP. We made these delicious cold drinks called Javaculous. Basically a frappuccino, but in my opinion, much better due to the ingredients in each specific one. It was a summer day and there was a very long line wrapping all around the cafe filled with people who wanted drinks from us. A lady approached the counter and asked if our Javaculous tasted at all like the vanilla coffee fraps you can get at gas stations. I answered honestly, no, they're not the same, but they have enough similarities in taste and texture. She agreed to try one. I made her a vanilla Javacula. She tried it and at once wanted it remade because it wasn't quite enough like the ones at the gas station. Again I told her this would not be the same drink, but I could add more vanilla powder as to give it a creamier taste. She tried the second attempt. Again, this isn't what I get at the gas station. She's beginning to get irate. Put less coffee in it. Put more milk. Add more flavor. As if she can somehow design this drink herself. This goes on for 2x more each time she asks for it to be remade. Best part, customer behind her says loudly, "Maybe if you don't think it's enough like the fraps at the gas station, you should go to the damned gas station." The lady's face was priceless. She loped away and I was able to proceed with my other guests. It took everything out of me not to laugh at her. Just a few days ago, a woman came through my register. She was buying a cart full of pretty typical family stuff. Cereal, baby food, kids clothing, etc. She was on her phone the whole time, which is pretty typical for this store for some reason. Early in the transaction, she just sort of announces to herself, "Other person on the phone, crap. I forgot the liners." Notice she just said liners, not any specific product name or hint as to what she meant. I went through my usual script of "How are you doing today? Huh. Oh. Fine. And then did you find everything you needed?" Which was met with a look of confusion before she returned to her phone call, slowly unloading her cart. I scan all of her items as I make one-sided small talk because I like annoying the people who are on their phones the whole time. Stuff like, "Oh, what a cute shirt. This cereal looks good," etc. As I tell her the total, she manages to take the phone away from her ear to ask me, "So did they grab my liners?" Me, what is it that you needed exactly? Her, "Say, I told you I forgot to grab liners. So did someone get them for me yet? I'm kind of in a hurry." Me, "Well, mom, I wasn't sure what you meant. Trash bag liners? Feminine products. I couldn't think of another meaning for the word." Her, another loud sigh, "Baby bottle liners. I need them. Someone needs to go get them." I call the infant department and ask her questions like the bottle size, if she wants a big small pack, store brand or name brand. and repeat the info to the employee on the sales floor so he can grab them. All of these questions are, of course, a major inconvenience because I'm interrupting her phone call. The coworker shows up with a package that matches what the customer has told me. She looks at it and goes, "This is not the kind I use. I specifically told you drop-in bottle liners, store brand." I keep smiling and ask the coworker to grab the correct kind with this new knowledge of exactly what she wants. Her number. This is ridiculous. I'm late to pick up my kids. She just walked away from my register, leaving all of her items bagged and in the cart, which she left. She didn't steal anything, and grumbling to her friend on the phone about how incompetent we all were. All because she couldn't just tell us what she needed, or actually ask me to have someone grab it, or even remember to pick it up herself during her shopping. In England they'd tell her to frick off and get it herself if the stupid bee forgot it. This isn't a 5-hotel lady and I'm not the butler. I used to do customer service for a major pharmacy. We had a customer complain that the pharmacist had barred her from buying on the shelf codeine products and demanded she get a prescription if she wants more codeine. I talked to the doctor, she explained, very slowly, but he doesn't think I need them. But he's wrong. She used her rewards card every time she bought codeine, so we were able to see how bad it really was. She was literally taking 120 codeine pills every day. We notified every pharmacy in the area that she was abusing them and backed the pharmacist up. I thought she'd be P, but God bless codeine. She just said, "What? Huh? Oh, yeah, okay, yep." She wasn't taking those pills. BTW. What was your breaking point, where you snapped and went off on a rude butt customer? I used to be a shift supervisor at a pet store. I once had one of the girls come up to the front, crying. Immediately my big sister instincts kicked in and I asked her what's wrong. Turns out there is some jerk back in the dog food section that she was trying to help and he was a total butt to her, arguing with her about something that she was entirely correct about. So I head back there. Donghead is back there throwing around bags of dog food. So I ask if he needs help and he goes off on me about the girl that was just back there and how useless she was. So I listen to him rant and then correct him and tell him he was out of line. He gives me the favorite "haven't you heard the phrase the customer is always right" line. So I give him a flat look and respond with "yeah," and in this case he's also a horse's butt. He loses it and yells, saying he wants to speak to the manager. I give a shrug and say I am the manager. If you want you can fill out a customer complaint card on your way out and I will make sure I get it. But you need to leave now. I have managed at so many different retail stores. I am not even fazed by people anymore. I am so glad to be out of the industry. Back when I was managing fast food, every once in a while someone would pull the customer is always right card and I would tell them they were no longer a customer and ban them. Had a woman come into my red themed department store asking about cameras. We aren't trained in every individual camera so we usually just refer to the item cards on display near the device that list the basic specs and features. She wanted to know why one, which seemingly had better specs, was priced lower than another. Best we could give her was UHHIDK, that's just the way it is. The entire time she's berating my teammate who I had been called to assist and starts ripping into me, telling me she should have just gone to PC Richardson's instead of my store. After finally deciding on one I ring her out, where she continues to be about the service and knowledge level. I asked if she wanted a replacement plan, which is standard practice on all electronics purchases. She was like, "Are you kidding me? I've never had a worse experience and there's no way I'm giving you any more money." I smiled and told her, "Well, next time mom, there's always PC Richardson's." She was pissed. "What did you just say to me?" I repeated myself. "Well, I should just go return this right now." "Sure thing. Guest services at the From can definitely help you with that. Just make sure you have your receipt handy." I've done similar. I work in sales customer service over the phone and the following happens shockingly pretty often. Customer will ring in too late to order something and the item's sold out. "Well, I'll just never order with you again." "Okay, I'll just disable your account with us. It'll just take me a moment." No, that's okay. I offered a very minor celebrity in the UK, who was in town to do a pantomime, a store card that we have to offer everyone, and his response was, "I don't need 5 off. I could pay your wages for 10 years from one job." Don't you know who I am? So I decided to lie. Not a clue. I then called my boss, who I knew didn't watch any soaps, on the tannoy and asked him if he knew said celeb. He said sorry no. Should I? Then I asked the customer behind him who said no. Mainly she was just getting involved or she genuinely didn't know. I have no idea. But that lady was a legend. Then he said Sam Kane, Brookside, Coronation Street. I finished with nope. Still don't know you. So you sure you don't want to take advantage of the 5 discount? It means you save £3.55. He walked out. My manager complimented me on my store card pitch. It was a good afternoon. This happened about a year ago. I managed a team of about 12 call center employees. Guy calls into my tech support desk. We do B2B software, and absolutely berates one of my interns until she's in tears. My most senior analyst takes the call from the intern, and he rips into her as well. Cursing. Whole 9 yards. Guy was a real butthole to any of the female staff whenever he'd call in anyway. He was one of our frequent flyers. I was not having a great day, but against my better judgment I took the phone out of her hand and laid into him. Didn't curse, but by the time the call was over he understood in no uncertain terms that I knew he was a real butthole. And yes, I'm the manager, and no, he was not welcome to ever call us again. After firing the customer, I hung up, looked around. Every one of my staff, my boss, boss's boss, and the next team over were peeking above their cube walls and out of offices. Went out for a smoke to get mentally ready for the paperwork I knew I'd be getting for telling a customer off. Came back inside, and nobody said a word. Never heard about it from my bosses. I work at a concert venue where I normally check bags and do security until Warped Tour came around. The food vendors were understaffed, so I was moved to a stand where we never had enough food and I was the only one doing food prep, which I hadn't learned how to properly do. About 2 hours into cutting deals with people who ordered something I ran out of saying OHH chicken sandwich. Sorry, just ran out. I feel really bad, but I have burgers, can that work? I'll throw in some fries. Someone starts giving me crap. My line is backed up like 15 customers as it had been for an hour now, and this person somehow thinks that I can do anything about my current situation besides leave. I didn't even need to say anything. I looked the bee in the eyes, shut my own for a few seconds, took a deep breath and exhausted hunched over the bar. When I look up at my line of now 20 people, I make eye contact with a guy behind her in line. He turns the girl around and says, we're here to see a concert, get drunk and have fun while this kid is stuck slaving away making food for people all day. How about you leave the fricking kid alone? I'll refund you right now. What did you get? For every one horrible person I deal with, there are at least 5 who keep a smile and make me happy to work there. Then there's that guy who brings a tear to my eye by looking out for me. That guy is freaking amazing. One of my co-workers was feeling under the weather about midway through her shift, so I was asked to move my till over to the register she was on so that she could go home. No biggie. I grab my till, walk over, and quietly tell co-worker, hey, I'm here to relieve you so you can go home. Hope you feel better. She finishes up her transaction, pulls her till out, starts gathering her stuff up. Next customer in line starts complaining about how long she's going to have to wait. I put my till into the register. It'll just be a moment. Mom, sign on. Just give me a minute and I'll be with you. And start scanning her stuff. Customer complains about co-worker not ringing her up. She should have rung me up. I've been waiting for 10 minutes, a lie, since it had been slow, with multiple registers open. And co-worker had taken maybe 2 minutes with her previous customer. Still scanning. I'm very sorry about that, Mom. But co-worker was not feeling well, and I was asked to relieve her so she could go home. The customer was not satisfied. Well, why didn't she stay home if she was sick? I don't even look up at that point because I'm just seething. Still scanning her stuff. I respond, maybe she was feeling well at the start of her shift and only started feeling bad after she got here. Or maybe she tried to come in and work through feeling sick because maybe, just maybe, she relies on the money she makes here to have a roof over her head and food in her stomach and can't afford to take a sick day. I finish ringing her up. Your total is $XX. Not another word out of her. She grabbed her stuff and got out. I love this story. This is reality for 99% of the population. Even when you are allotted time off for issues like sick injury, the truth is that you are not by management and or financial situations often, despite the fact above. I have been on yours and your co-worker's position. I know she knew that. Freaking see. I worked retail when I was in college. A customer came to my till and one of the products he had was a large version of a chocolate bar. I scanned it and he started giving me crap because the price was wrong. I knew the price wasn't wrong because I enjoy this particular chocolate and bought it all the time. He walked me down to the shelf where it was and pointed out the price tag. I told him that's the wrong price tag. It was for regular size, not large. He asked me, "Are you freaking blind?" I responded with, "Yes, actually, I'm blind in one eye, but I can still see that this price tag is for a regular size bar and not large. Look at the small letters under the price." He immediately turned nice and bought me a chocolate bar. But screw retail. Never doing that again. Worked in a high-end hippie store. Lady came in with her dog despite the mall's no dogs policy. Told her no dogs allowed, but she insisted she knew someone at corporate. It's balls, but whatever. I don't get paid enough to argue. Dog immediately pisses on the floor. She looked over at me with this well look like I was supposed to rush over and wipe it up. Nope. Frick you, lady. I just tossed a roll of paper towels at her and went back to folding. Not technically me, but it's my story. I managed, in person, customer service for a place in a location with a lot of crappy rich people. One day, this middle-aged man with a Mercedes and a big gold Ivy League ring on his hand was yelling at me about something. I don't even remember what. I'm a 5'2" female. I was maybe 20 at the time, and this grown butt man is leaned over my desk waving his arms and yelling in my face. A few minutes into his rant, he backhands a brochure rack over my side of the counter and it smashes on the floor. All of a sudden, we hear a loud bang. Then a door slam. The customer freezes and my 6'4" assistant manager appears, as if out of nowhere. He gets face to face. Well, as close as he can given that he has 6/8 inches on the angry customer with him, and just goes in his deepest angriest voice with his booming Bajan accent, "Do you have a freaking problem?" Before he can finish the sentence, the man is out the door, into his Mercedes and down the street. I never had a problem with him again. The assistant manager was in the back room eating lunch, watching this unfold through one of those windows that looks like a mirror from the outside. He usually let me handle my crap because I was the manager. But as soon as the brochure rack was in the air, it was a different story. I worked at a party city in Minnesota. There was one night where I was working the register. It was near the end of the night, tired, still had homework and was in a bad mood. However, I was still polite and friendly. This lady comes in, grabs a few items and comes to the register. She doesn't say anything even when I try to make small talk. She seemed like a snooty woman. She just stared at her phone, pays and leaves. A few minutes later she comes in looking for her phone, clearly frustrated, and I tell her I hasn't seen it and that I was sure she had walked out with it. She walks out and comes back and says I can't find it. She then proceeds to accuse me of stealing it. I had my phone in my pocket and I showed it to her. Told her I had no need for her phone but I will check out for it. She demands I turn out my pockets and she wanted to check behind the register to make sure I hadn't hidden it. The night manager is there at this point and just tells me to do what she says. It gets to the point where they also go through my locker in the back of the store. Mind you, I only had a few minutes before she comes in accusing me, and then going through my car. How the heck did I manage then when I have to walk right next to her to get to it? After proving I isn't have it, he gets angrier and says I must have stolen it because I'm a pathetic loser working retail that can't afford a real phone. Normally I'm a shy, introverted guy that doesn't say much and is polite, but I just tilted into oblivion. Told her she was a stuck-up, entitled C that needed a freaking attitude adjustment, that I had no need for a phone that was better because mine works just fine, and that her phone wouldn't be fit to wipe my butt with. Lame, but I was so angry I couldn't really think. I still had the job the next day. D. I used to work at a Starbucks in an area where NFL owners, professional athletes and the like lived. One of our regulars was some guy who had spent his life wallowing in orange spray tan and had the whitest hair one could imagine. Every day he would come in and order a green tea, literally a tea bag with hot water. No matter what, there was always something wrong with it. Too hot, too cold, Cup was weird. Whatever. Anyway, one day during my last 2 weeks this guy comes in when we're being slammed. He orders and I call out green tea latte 4x. Notice I did not say green tea. He comes up and snaps, excuse me. It was a green tea. It's literally water and a tea bag. How stupid can you be? I turn toward him, look him dead in the eye and loudly go, that's not even your freaking order. Every time you come in here it's something else. If we're so stupid then go to another location. He stepped back and didn't say anything after that. Starbucks employee myself. A glory moment for us all is what you had. For every customer that picks up or rudely questions a drink that is very obviously not theirs. My mother owned a dry cleaners and one of her customers flipped out on her because she said we misplaced her clothing. She tried talking to her calmly and explained to her that whatever she dropped off was picked up and paid for. I believe it was one blouse so we didn't lose it. She then went off on her and I basically told the lady to frick off and get the heck out. I never curse in front of my parents, but that lady peed me off yelling at my mom who worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. She then told me to watch myself because she knew people who would get my chink butt. Always nice to top off being a run-of-the-mill butthole with some verbal threats. I wasn't working. I was a customer. It was 28 years ago. I was at a fast food place. I think it was a Popeyes, in a mall food court, and my family was seated at a nearby table. I watched the customer in front of me throw an unreasonable tantrum at the cashier to try to get a freebie. Then when the cashier didn't budge she demanded the manager. All the while I'm standing there waiting for her tantrum to be over so I can order. The manager listened to her lie about the cashier and started to offer her the desired freebie. I was sick of her balls and sick of waiting. So I spoke up and told the manager everything that had happened. Told him the woman was a liar and the cashier had been exemplary, and that if he gave the woman anything or punished the cashier in any way I would take my business elsewhere. $B threw a tantrum at me and stomped off, without her food. $boss tried to comp me a meal, but I insisted on paying because I hadn't done anything special. I had merely gotten pee off she was wasting my time and told the truth. Cashier gave me $BS food free, in addition to what I ordered, since it had already been made, packaged and would go to waste, and was very friendly to me every time she saw me afterward. My family wanted to know what had taken so long and why I got so much food. $B, $boss, $cashier. I didn't know we were commenting in PHP today. Before university I worked at this awesome pizza bar as a waiter. I had this really scummy family walk into the place and demand a table. Being the upstanding citizen I organized a makeshift table to decrease their waiting time. The father ordered a double brandy and coke, so I went and put in the order. Now just to clarify, this place would get ridiculously busy. Sometimes an order from the bar would take 10-15 minutes. Suddenly after 2 minutes the man storms in and is like, where the heck is my drink? I kindly respond by stating that I will bring it as soon as possible. However, the bar is backlogged. He responds, don't you talk back to me boy, and don't even think about getting a tip. The evening carries on and I bring him his drink. He then proceeds to order a pizza, one of the most expensive pizzas at that. However, he requests no olives, no cheese, no onion, no pepper, basically just a pizza base, tomato paste and the meat. The bill comes and I am immediately summoned back to the table. Why is this pizza so expensive? He questioned. Because that's what you ordered, I replied. But I didn't have 90% of the toppings, he screamed at me. That does not change the price, I smirked. I refuse to pay this, he argues. I walk back into the store, find my manager and tell him the story. I then proceed to package the cheese, onions and all other toppings into tiny plastic containers, slam it down on the table in front of the man and say, there, you now have all your ingredients. Now pay the freaking bill and get out of here. They pay the bill and get escorted out of the joint by the manager. Honestly, waitering was fun, other than guys like that. I worked at a big name office supply store for 2 years and dealt with all kinds of bulls. I don't take well to customers treating low-wage people like crap. A few summers ago, I had come home after working at that office supply store and decided I wanted ice cream. Low wage or not, I had worked a few extra hours and decided to invite the single mom neighbor and her kids to come for ice cream, since I knew she was struggling too. It was the beginning of summer and there was a line 20 people long, but no deal, you wait your turn. There was a woman a few people ahead of me who spotted one of the employees on their break, leaning out an extra window and talking to a friend who had dropped by. This woman decided to lean out of the line and scream up to the windows, "We're out here waiting and she's just chatting with her friends instead of doing her job, etc." I lost my temper, leaned out and said, "Mom, please, what's the problem here? You're waiting for ice cream, not the cure for cancer. Anyone who works hard is entitled to a break, and especially when low-wage employees deal with buttholes like you, they need it." The entire line started chuckling and looking at her. She turned beet red and went silent. I hope she felt more embarrassed than she ever had, because seriously, it's freaking ice cream. Don't be a bee. Thanks for standing up to bullies. I do the same now when I'm in civilian mode. I will call you out and take a crap on you if you act like a bee to service industry people. I'm a bank teller, and a customer I had never seen before flipped out when I asked him for his license. He was cashing a check for over $700. Obviously I'm going to properly at him. He grumbles about how he's never heard of a bank asking for identification. I tell him we do it to protect his money, but he raises his voice and says you people are only looking out for yourselves, which isn't entirely wrong. Yeah, it'd be bad for business if we were giving strangers people's money, but still, it's protecting their money in the first place. He's basically yelling at me for following our company procedure. I explained that if anyone came in with the check, they could cash it if we didn't ask for it. He lets out this nasty huff and says, "How do I know you're who you say you are?" Now, I had no idea what to say. Here I am with a name tag with the company name, sitting behind the teller line next to other tellers. So I look around, grab for my purse under the counter and say, "I can show you my license if you don't believe me. I don't know what you want, sir." And his face turned so red. All he said was, "Why does the bank need my ID?" And he didn't talk the rest of the transaction. I did the transaction as slow as possible and counted the money more times than I needed to drag it out. He was so peeved. Honestly, I'd be more concerned if a bank didn't ask for my ID when they're handling my money. I used to be a Chinese food cook. One night the kitchen was closed. I cleaned everything in the kitchen and everything we had in the food warmer was what was going to last the rest of the night. The store closed in 30 minutes. This lady came up to the counter and ordered kung pao chicken, which was the last thing I made before closing down the kitchen. This woman started bitching about how she didn't want the crap in the warmer because she was convinced it was just sitting there all day. I told her that unfortunately the kitchen was closed and what was in the warmer was all we had, but it was the last thing made before closing the kitchen, which was about 15 minutes prior. She then started to curse me out and was telling me how I was going to get fired because I was being so rude and how she is the customer, which means I have to do what she says. So I looked at her, said fine, turned around, walked into the kitchen and cooked her a new batch of kung pao chicken, and I took the entire container of dried peppers and dumped it in the wok with the chicken. It was so strong I couldn't breathe when cooking it. I dumped it into the quart box and half the box was dried pepper flakes. Walked out, gave it to her, rang her up, told her to have a good night. I hope she went home and was furious about it. After a year and a half of taking complaints for tech support, I had a customer that couldn't restart his computer because the watch battery in it was dead and every restart required a long period of entering in dates. DOS-based machine. This guy would not accept the standard answer and was expecting me to help him with his uninstall, reinstall and build a script to input dates automatically or something. I dealt with a guy for over 2 hours of constant rudeness and badgering while we took a lot of extra time fixing his problem. He was almost appreciative. Then I get to the point where I add, "And these changes will take effect when you do a complete restart." I talked over him for the first few seconds, telling him to wait 30 seconds before restarting. I didn't let him finish. I just kept saying that and interrupting him. I let him start to cuss me out for a second, but I had had enough. I told him to frick off and threw the headset. Work fast food. Customer returned fries because they wanted salt free, so I put down another batch, waited, took them up, and brought them to the customer, salt free. 2 minutes later they come back and flip major crap, saying they are still too salty. I didn't lose my crap. but my manager behind the counter didn't take too kindly and kicked him out of the store. Felt good. Sounds like they were the ones who were salty. This pompous butt came into my restaurant one afternoon with his wife, and one of my favorite co-workers ended up getting him as a table. Right off the bat he started snapping his fingers at people to get their attention, cutting them off only to not say a word, having every type of passive-aggressive negative comment about the restaurant, ranging from the seats to the table to the drinks and so on. I wound up having to run his food to him, and when I got there, he was in the middle of scolding my friend on why our food was prepared a certain way. WTF. It's a Cajun restaurant owned by a dude from New Orleans. It's gonna be on the weird side. So I go to set his food down once he stops talking. I hadn't even finished setting it down when he goes, "Where are the crackers?" To which I reveal my other hand, carrying as many packages as I could hold. But I smile for my friend's sake and say, "Oh, they're right here. Don't worry, I made sure to bring you extra." I then set his wife's food down, and again, before I'd even finished, he goes, "Where are her sides?" Which I say, "They're right here on the tray," grabbing them from the tray and setting them down. By this point I'm fairly irked, but genius here didn't seem to realize it, and he snaps at me and says, "Spoon," while shaking his head like you would at a child. I had been sure to prepare this guy's food perfectly before I brought it out, so he would have no reason to send me back for anything, and I remembered his goddamn spoon. Smiling, I looked down at his plate and picked up the spoon resting in front of his stupid face and said, "Oh, well, here it is. How about that?" My co-worker got a kick out of that one. Even the guy's wife was smirking a little. She was with him just for the money. A telemarketer called me at IT and insisted to talk to my client services manager to send us an information packet on flash storage. I told him we are not interested. He then said, "Sir, seeing as you are not the client services manager, you are not authorized to make decisions." Yeah, I went off on him a bit. It was an Amish guy that brought out a combination of Julia Sugarbaker and the evil queen from Snow White in me. Years ago I managed a supermarket in a very small town. A group of Amish people had recently purchased several farms and set up a community in the area. While I'm sure that most Amish people are good, honest folks, many members of this community weren't. By the time of what became known as the incident, several Amish people had already been banned from every bar, restaurant, and several retail establishments for fighting, shoplifting, and general bad behavior. Word gets around, so my employees were keeping an eye on them in the store. The day before, one of my cashiers had caught a young Amish woman shoplifting a roll, 10 cans of skull chewing tobacco, and called me up front. She had watched her hide them in her clothing. When she checked out, before giving her the total, the cashier asked her politely if she was going to pay for the skull. The Amish woman did give the tobacco back to the cashier, saying she forgot she had it, paid for the rest of her purchases and left. The next day an older Amish man came in asking for the manager. The girl up front called me to the front of the store. He then told me he wanted to speak to the manager. I told him I was the manager and asked how I could help. He then asked to speak to the real manager. I knew where this was going, both because I'm female and the near miss shoplifting from the day before. I let him know I was all he was going to get manager wise. He went on to try to explain to me, in a very slow, disappointed that I was obviously too stupid to understand manner, that he wouldn't tolerate his people being watched in my store. I explained, in my very calm yet intensify cold killer now with sheer force of all I world manner, that I would not tolerate shoplifting in my store. I told him I had witnessed the exchange and everything was done in accordance to store policy that I established. He then said something like, "I would expect this from a store full of women." I really don't remember what happened next, but according to more than one employee, I got 6 inches taller. My voice became very low and quiet, and I backed the guy out the door while banning him and all his ilk from my store forevermore. I had gone Old Testament. A few weeks later, a few older Amish people, both men and women in the delegation, showed up, told me they had come to the community to see that things went better because at this point nobody in town would do business with them. I lifted the ban, and they were good to their word, and there were no problems after that. When I worked at a CVS a couple of years ago, I had a husband and wife come in right as I opened up. They were usuals at my store and they were a pain every time. so I braced myself for the fight I'd have to put up, just to cave to what they wanted. Anyway, as I'm the only one in the store, I make sure to inform them that the coupon they plan to use can't be on sale items. The husband takes offense to this, saying that he knows how to use a coupon and can read and I should mind my own business. It's too early for this crap, but I just take it in stride and go back up to the register where my Red Bull is waiting for me. I down the Red Bull and those two are ready to check out. I'm silent as I scan his items so I'm not berated for trying to make small talk. Halfway through the transaction I noticed all the items are on sale and inform him. He and the wife get irate, yelling how he was supposed to know that, how it's my fault for not telling him and the coupon should work to make up for my mistake. He even goes as far to try and grab me from over the counter. I grab the baseball bat that I kept next to me for just this occasion. Touch me mother and I promise you they'll be carrying you and your wife out on a stretcher. Get the frick out now before I freaking snap. They took off out of the store and never saw them again. My boss and her boss reviewed the tape after I informed her about what happened and they believe I was justified. I was a legend at the store for what happened and was cathartic as heck. My brother works for a CVS. He had some tubby freaking teens shoplifting booze and crap. He waited and confronted them at the front door, made them empty their crap and told them if they tried to run he'd chase them down until they collapsed. He's a seasoned marathon runner. I'm a casino dealer and we have to deal with crappy people every day, but there's one that truly stands out. In the rules of blackjack, as soon as the cards are out you are not allowed to change your bets. Everyone knows this. So this one guy decides to try and add $10 to his bet way after the cards are out and I catch it and remove it, giving him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he did it without thinking and just made a mistake. He immediately grabs it and sticks it right back on the bet. I remove it again and say you can't add to a bet after the cards are dealt. He knows this. He says I can do it, it's fine, just deal the freaking cards. I say no, I can't allow late bets like that, it's never allowed, I could get fired for that. His response is frick, you ask your pit boss, I know they'll let me. Pit boss comes over and repeats everything I've just said. She says that's against the rules and you know it and walks away. I go to keep dealing. It turns out I have a blackjack, which means everyone on the table loses. I lock up all the losing chips and he says color me up, you freaking retard. You got a lot to learn about customer service, and shoves his chips towards me. I snap a little. I literally did my job properly. Prevented this guy from cheating. Saved him $10 by not letting him cheat. And I'm a freaking retard who needs to learn about customer service. The pit boss comes back over as we argue about this and talks to him, saying he needs to calm down because no one but him has done anything wrong. He does and decides to resume playing instead. It's a little tense. But now he's losing a bit more and I'm completely unsympathetic. About 10 minutes go by and he again calls me a freaking retard for not allowing him to do what he wants. I respond with we've been polite up to this point but now I'm mad. The other players are mad. And my pit boss is mad. Tone it down or leave. He says your pit boss is mad because she's just a freaking dumb woman. He tries to play another hand and I skip right over him. He demands I color him up because he will never play here again, blah blah blah, the same crap every P-off player says, and I smack his chips back at him and say no. Take the chips and get the frick off my table. He flips me off and storms off saying he's going to report me to my supervisor and get me fired and all that crap. Of course it had me worried. I received no reprimand and he has been barred from the premises. Good, my bosses are former dealers and fully understand the crap we go through. Well, I wasn't the one working, but one time went into a corner bakery and I was waiting in line trying to decide what to eat. As I was about to go up to order, I live in the South by the way, your typically former Southern debutant toffee wife, who is no longer happy in life and had gained a bunch of weight, storms up to the counter red with anger. She starts yelling at the ladies at the counter, one older sweet black lady, and I think a 16-year-old who was trying to hold a job. She freaking loses it, saying how she ordered extra chicken with her salad because she's on a special diet and she needs the extra protein. The lady at the register politely goes, oh no problem mom, we'll get you more chicken right away, with the sweetest smile. Lady wasn't having it. Lady freaking snaps again and goes, well you should have gotten it right the first time. You two are so pathetic. You both work here and can't even get this right. Then 16-year-old slowly begins to break down crying and the older lady looks like she's about to follow suit. She continues to go on to say how they won't amount to anything in life and are basically useless. At this point I'm fuming because I hate seeing people abused, especially when they were so kind and eager to fix the mistake. After about 30 more seconds of me trying to stay calm, she says, "You two deserve to be fired." I can't believe he either would hire people so incompetent. I want to speak to a manager. I am on a strict special diet and you've ruined it. My diet requires extra protein. If you can't accommodate me on that, then you deserve to be let. And I finally freaking snap with, "Are you on a B diet too? Because that doesn't seem to be working either." Went on to say if she lose the stick up her butt maybe she'd lose a few pounds, and while she was at it possibly gain some class. Her jaw freaking dropped and she let out the most pretentious scoff I have ever heard and said how she's never been SOO disrespected in her life. Storms off saying how she deserves to be treated with dignity and attempts to slam the door. Meanwhile the two at the register are trying so hard not to laugh at this point. They thanked me and offered to give me a free drink, haha, which was so sweet. I refused and gave them an extra big tip. Also spoke to the manager to make sure if the lady writes a review online the two girls don't get fired. I work part-time at a very well-known fast food restaurant, and I train new employees. I have lots of rude customer stories, but one really sticks out. It happened when I was training a very nice Muslim girl wearing a hijab at the register. This is important. She was doing fine until this man, while giving her his order, was trying to give her a card, a booklet, I don't remember, with Bible verses on it to put her on the right path, while being extremely condescending, and the girl was extremely uncomfortable and didn't knew what to do. As soon as I noticed, I approached the man, took the card off his extended hand and ripped it in front on him and tossed it in the garbage, and I said something along the lines of, "This is extremely disrespectful, and you don't have any say in how she or anyone lives their life. I believe this transaction is over. Now, will you pay cash or debit?" The man paid his order and never came back to the restaurant, even though he was a regular customer. Good riddance. The girl still works there and we are now good friends. As someone that is not religious, I respect everyone's right to believe or not in whatever God they choose, and I will not stand for intolerance. If you pee me off, I'd pack everything in one paper bag and pray to the grocery gods the handles would break. So glad my retail days are over. Turned me into a miserable C. I used to work at an auto body shop doing detailing on cars. One day a lady picked her car up at the very end of the day after every other person had left, so it was just me and the receptionist. Sadly her car had died, so I went to get the booster and she was pissed about this because he recommended her a new battery because the car kept dying. I was fairly new and she had an Audi or something, so of course the battery is tucked away without obvious posts to jump off, so I was taking my time somewhat to make sure I did it correctly and didn't fry the thousands of electronic equipment if I fricked it up. This pissed her off even more and she started going off on me. I took it for a second or two and she said, "Do you even freaking work here?" which just made my blood boil. So I unhooked the terminals from the booster and left that bee sitting in the parking lot with her dead car. It felt so good to drive away while she was sitting there watching me. I guess she called a friend or something because we never heard from her again. My boss never gave me crap for it, just asked me to not do that again. The shop was in a wealthy area, so we dealt with so many arrogant buttholes. I'm so glad I don't deal with customers anymore. Gonna get buried, but I've got two. Owned managed a Little Caesars pizza joint for a bit. One night some guy comes in and tells my counter girl we screwed up his food last time, so this time it's free. My cashier perfectly explains the return we made a mistake policy and asks the guy's name since we have a book we write them in. The guy starts losing it and yelling at my 16-17-year-old employee. I calmly walk over to her, ask her to go in the back and call this guy out for swearing at a young girl. How he is a piece of crap. You have no respect. Get the frick out and don't ever come back. The random customer in the lobby gave me a high five. Second story, I was actually the customer at a Little Caesars. It's probably 5 to close. I roll in and ask for a hot and ready since I'm headed to a friend's house and I don't wanna show up empty handed. Tells me it will be about a minute since it's still in the oven and they have to cut it. My first thought was sweet fresh pizza. After I pay and move to the side, a lady walks in and asks for 2 pizzas. The kid behind the counter tells her it will be about 3 minutes. At this point the lady starts losing her crap. This is bull crap. It should be hot and ready. I should not have to wait. The kid behind the counter is still in high school and trying to do his best, so I step in. I slam my hand on the counter and say, "Lady, and you freaking kidding me right now?" I said, "What gives you the right to talk to someone like that? Over 3 minutes. Everywhere you go you have to wait to at least pay. How important are you that you can't wait for 3 minutes for hot right out of the oven pizzas?" She was silent. As I looked up, the kid in the back gave me a few fist pumps. When the first 2 pizzas came out, I offered her mine so she could get back to her important life faster. She declined and said that she can wait. The next time I stopped in, it was the same 2 guys. Gave me my pizza and said, "This one is on us." After that they would always hook me up with crazy bread. I read your comment. You're an awesome person for doing that. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video.